multifaceted thing. I'm not a 2A guy, right? I have a whole separate philosophy with respect to guns, and I'm not anti-gun, but you can be pro-gun and anti. You can be pro-gun and anti-2A. I won't bother to say that at this point, but it's multifaceted. Social media definitely is playing a part in our mental health crisis. There is a very lax view of responsibility with respect to guns by some of these families, like the amount of kids that are getting killed with guns, but with respect to school shootings specifically, I think that they kind of, we kind of look back at it, it's kind of like, man, Billy would never do that, and they just kind of go on with it. When the signs were there, because the last few, it's like, how did this dummy get a gun, or he had a gun, and how come y'all didn't see the signs? Like, y'all not paying attention to your kid? Like the signs are there, and we're kind of like didn't pay attention, you know.
But what if that is the answer, though, Finley? What if it is that dumb? Like, if you look at the strong correlation, when did we start having school shootings? Like Holly even said it. You start seeing attacks begin, like, well, that's not necessarily the first one, but you start seeing, like, attacks that gain some ground, posting that, like, I guess you could put late 70s, 80s, and then there was a brief pause, and then you had Columbine. So, if you're starting to say, hey, what was the precipitous? Quite literally is the fact that we took mom out of the home, or we took a parent out of the home. What if that is, it's that fucking simple? Because that timelines, if you look, they tend to correlate right there with, and I'm not saying that women need to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. I'm not Sig or some of the other guys on the app. I am.
If I may, bro.
But hold on, dude. Chill. But what if it is something that simple? Like, we just removed a parent, a guiding force, somebody to connect and teach their kids, and now we're putting it in the hands of 23-year-olds who last week were coking and token and basically getting plowed and gangbanged in fucking college. What if it is that simple?
Black kids.
Hey, Brad, may I chime in on that point real quick?
Go ahead. I was asking Finley, but if Finley could respond, and then you can go, Adrian.
You're saying, is your thesis that because we potentially took a parent out of the home? Is that right?
We didn't just take a parent out of the home. We took the majority of parents out of the home, like the overwhelming majority in the country. So what if it is something that simple that we could just put parents back in the home?
I think there's definitely something to that, right? But I think it goes deeper. I think, and again, this is something that even though I'm an anti-2A guy, which particularly school shootings in general, I think it's bigger than that. I think the community, as we used to know it, like, you know, and remember, I'm a little younger than you, like, that doesn't exist anymore. Like, we have helicopter parents, and like, but can't nobody else do nothing with your kid, and we can't assist. Like, there's no assist. It's just like the parents, and that's it. Nobody else into my kid.
Yeah,
I think that is
it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes, and a lot of it is paranoia. Like, I was listening to, and I don't want to get too far off base here, Brad, but I was listening to a conversation about, like, kidnappings, right? The traditional stranger kidnaps your kid off the street is about 100 to 200 per year in the country. The majority of them are family members. The majority of the and 90, I think it's 97% of them are all returned within, like, you know, a day or two, but it's mostly family members taking their kids, right? Something along those lines. But the paranoia around that has caused people to, like, isolate themselves from, like, their neighbors that live, like, right next door to them. And I think that plays into this because, again, there's sometimes, like, your neighbor can see things that you can't see because you're too busy, or there's sometimes your kids will talk to your neighbors that they won't talk to you about, right? I was one of the few kids that talked about sex when he was, right? I was one of the few kids whose parents talked to him about sex when I was 7. My friends learned about sex from my parents because their parents would not talk to them, and they were afraid to talk to their parents.
They're all right, and they're all of Christian.
Well, hold on, let Adrian go. Yes, he was polite. He waited until everybody else was done.
You said I could after the last one, but I get it.
Oh, I apologize, Mark. You go after Adrian.
Nah, let Mark go first, man. Go ahead, man.
All right, then Adrian.
Buddy toes, go ahead.
Yeah, there's something going on here, guy. Can I talk? If I'm up. There's something going on here. All right, there's something it's hard to explain, but there's something going on here with technology, with information at the click of a button, and Christian people children who have information at the click of a button. I'm rambling here.
I'm confused. We have been over this.
Marshall, hold on. Let him just learn because I want to get to Adrian.
Well, what I'm getting at is, why is it a white Christian person, all the time?
But it's
That
not.
does these
The
school shootings.
mass shootings are qualified as 4 or more people wounded.
Marshall, you did this
Well, I was going to say, if you're talking about school shootings, not every one of them has been white either. My point is, you seem to want to attach a religion to it, and I can't figure out why you're so gung-ho on attaching Christianity to it. Noting that your argument is, because they're Christian now, they are more susceptible to be violent. Despite the fact that, as Holly and several other people have said, this religion has been practiced in the country for 250 years nearly. We're not anywhere near as violent as, say, we were in 1867. We're worlds away from that, right? And Christianity has existed the entire time, right? So if it's existed the entire time, and you've only had a couple of spasmodic periods of violence, which lasted, one like 10 years and the other like 40 years, maybe even a little longer than that. I just can't remember the math straight. But other Christian countries don't have this problem, right? Like, why is it so important to attach Christian to white, or attach Christian to school shooter, when not all of them have been either white or Christian?
Yeah, that's
Like, why is that?
People are too lazy to do this, but it saves homeowners.
Hold on, DJ. Hold on, everybody. I want to get Adrian. He asked, you guys are skipping him, and I said it. I let Mark go. Mark, we're gonna put a pin in this. I'm gonna let Adrian go, and then we're gonna attack this one because this one's. I'm gonna show you where you're fatally flawed, and I'm gonna try to use another hyperbole that we often hear. But please, Adrian.
Yeah, just 2 quick points. What Mark just said, other Christian countries don't have this issue. That's a lie. Yeah, that is a lie. I'll just give you one example. The Norway shooter. What was his name? Breivik. Killed all of those people. Norway is a Christian-dominated country. Right? So that's where you're wrong there. Something that Brad said about taking the parents out of the home. That literally happened in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, when schools was planting the idea into children's minds, hey, if your parent hits you, you can call the police, right? If you don't like the way your mom is yelling at you, you can come tell us. The guidance counselors and the teachers and stuff like that was planting these ideas in kids' heads that, hey, you can be emancipated from your parents if you don't like the way that things are going in your household.
No, Father. Hands off me,
And that had a
I don't
profound
know
effect
about
on
an
parents
invitation.
in homes. Because what the school was doing, they were usurping the
Kingslayer.
authority of the parent, the state was, saying, hey, you can't beat your child. We'll send CPS to your house if you do. Oh, you yell at them, you hurt their feelings, guess what? CPS is going to take it. That is actually a real thing that happened in the late 90s. I remember that shit happening in high school. They tried to have talks with us. Are we being abused? Are you on unfair punishment, restriction, whatever it's called? Just come tell us who you're afraid of.
This man is
What
our
the schools
prisoner,
did, and
That killed my son.
a crippled mine. He will answer for his crimes, I promise you. but not here.
I will have his head. And if you try and stop me,
You will strike me down.
Right?
Have you forgotten me, sir?
You cannot
I
deny
am the
that
widow
shit.
of your liege
Shortly
lord
after
Edward
Columbine
Stark. I am the
happened,
mother of your king.
where is our king
You
now?
know very well.
right?
He
That
has
school
got the
shooting
courage
there,
to accept the
and it
surrender.
just started a
Gone to
whole
the
wave
crime.
of these
But
incidents
not to
that
negotiate.
happened. And
You
all of a
brought that
sudden,
foreign
as soon as
bitch
we
with you.
How dare you?
get on the
Threaten
other
my
end of
lady
the
as an act of
school
treason.
shooting, the wake of it,
How can it be treason to
we do
kill
an
my minister?
autopsy
I
where
understand
things
your
went
grief,
wrong.
my lord,
And
better than
9
most.
times
I
out of 10,
understand it.
because the
But
parents
in the
did
name
not
of my son,
know
the king
what
in the
their
north,
child was into.
stand down.
They didn't know what was going
When
on
your son
underneath
returns,
their roofs.
I will demand
Like
this
very
murderer's
roots.
head.
They didn't know what was
Wise
going
men
on.
do
Because
not
a
make
lot of
demands
them
of kings.
hands
Fathers who look
their
at their
children
sons do.
and was
I will have
disengaged.
his head.
That is
Thank you for
because
fighting on my
authority of
behalf,
their
Lady
parents
Stark. I was
usurped
to
the
defense,
state.
Take him to the
School.
side.
Hell, you
Find
can
him
have
every
input
chain
on
you
what
can find.
Well, she won't
your
be a
kid
lady
is learning at
There's a
school.
much straight shot from you.
Gender
I'm
studies
back.
and shit. You have to affirm them and all that shit. And if you don't, you risk getting locked up. So what I'm saying is absolutely true.
Adrian, do you? So Adrian, do you consider 4 mass shootings in 14 years a lot?
One is a lot.
Okay, so your Norway example seemed like a stretch to me. Like, just because something happens one time doesn't mean that like there's a pattern. And when referencing about what the other Christian nations and this issue, he named Norway, which has had 4 mass shootings in 14 years. So it's not a good example, right? Like, I hear you saying one's a lot. I understand. But by comparison to the U.S., that's not a good standard. I don't know why you said Norway. It seems utterly ridiculous. Just because
I can tell you
does not mean there's a pattern.
See, I have to give you clarity. Hold on. I have to give you clarity because you popped out like and didn't understand context. If you were listening closely, I mentioned Norway on the tail end of what Mark said. He said these things don't happen in Christian countries, and I listed Norway as an example.
No, he blamed Christian
So-
countries. He's on the phone.
I was talking to CEO.
Yeah, I'm saying Mark blamed Christian countries. He said that's the problem.
Totally. Well, I mean, if we can,
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's a fact. It's a fact.
I just wanted to point out that
Hold on a second.
this idea-
Adrian wasn't
Okay, sorry.
done.
Well, I'm done, man. No, go ahead.
Hey, I didn't mean to run. I didn't mean to.
People are anxious. Go ahead.
No. I did not mean to interrupt you, Adrian. You're not.
No, you go ahead, man. It's all good.
So I was just gonna this. So your thesis is that the increase in CPS has caused a decrease in parenting, which has caused an increase in school shootings. Am I restating your thesis?
The usurping of parents' authority is my stance because that absolutely happened.
So I mean, I disagree because I don't necessarily think that parents' authority has been usurped. I think that
So we're
I
overcoming
do
a lot.
think that
And
parents
I think
are
Kennedy is ultimately
my
doing it the
opinion,
right way,
I'm not a
recognizing
parent.
if we're going
yet, but I think that parents have gotten lazy.
to
Slash,
sustain this long after Kennedy and Trump are gone,
What's the word?
we better establish
They're
that scientific credibility, if you will.
uninvolved,
And that is
but yet they think that they're too involved. You know what I'm saying? They're kind of uninvolved. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to be micromanage those that are here to assist. Again, this idea there's no community, but you're not going to tell me to do with my kid, but I'm not doing anything with my kid. That is my thesis.
let me respond to. Wait, Adrian, you respond to Finley? Because I want to respond to
Yeah,
Mark
just
really
real
quickly.
quick, 15 seconds. I've spoken with teachers, but it's been a lot of teachers on this app that speak out, especially when it comes to mass shootings and things like that happen. And you know what the number one thing that all of those teachers have in common that they say that they love? They say they love helicopter parents. They say that helicopter parents are the best parents in the schools because they are the most engaged, they're the most involved, they're the ones that come to the parent-teacher conferences, the school board meetings, the PTA meetings, all of that stuff, and they don't play about their children. They want to know exactly what their children are learning and see how they're being productive class and make sure that they're on top of their things, right? In school and at home. So a lot of teachers love helicopter parents. So to have these parents disengaged from their children, it is a problem, and it leads to more things. So there's nothing wrong with being a helicopter parent, with being involved in your child's school life and home life.
I reserve my response.
I was just going to mention really quickly to Mark, because first of all, I don't know if Mark is being like genuine or is he just trolling, because I'm pretty sure he's researched this when his claim to some degree, bro. I like to believe that you did, but you say it's fact. It's a fact. It is not a fact. The Virginia Tech shooter was Asian, my nigga. Okay, the Parkland was like half Hispanic. We already talked about the Nade was Hispanic, and like Red Lake was Native American. Appalachian Law was black. Detroit was black. Knoxville was black. Like, I don't understand, like, why, like, where you're getting all of them were white and Christian, bro. And that's why I feel like you're being disingenuous for the sake of being disingenuous.
But majority of them are white.
That wasn't what he said. That wasn't what he said, though. He said that all of them were white and Christian.
Yeah.
Y'all throw the
and Christian
on it. That's like, it almost sounds like you have to be some religion when you're born in this world. So if you're born in a Christian country, that automatically makes you Christian. I don't believe that at all, bro. You can't, if you're not practicing Christianity, you don't go to church, you don't pray in the name of Jesus, you don't do none of these things, but automatically you're Christian? Like, how is that even logical?
It works that way for
Like,
Judaism.
even if an Arab is born in an Arab country, that don't automatically make him a Muslim if he's not practicing Islam. And people who practice Christianity are not going to shoot up shit.
I said something simple, but it is hard to prove, no doubt, that most of these school shootings are of white young kids who are raised as Christians. That's a fact.
Okay, wait. Could you cite your citation for that, please? You keep saying it's a fact. What citation do you have to prove
It's hard. First of all, you have to go to their parents, right? Because they're the ones.
But my nigga, how do you know? That's what I want to know. How do you know?
See,
you keep saying this. It's a fact. I want to see your citation.
So if we were to do proportionalities based on population, I'm sure it would be like, yes, there are more white freaking confused men out there that think somehow being a school shooter or mass shooter.
No, but the reason why I'm saying,
hold on, relax, chill, man. I ain't going anywhere. I ain't mad. I ain't calling any names. I'm not doing any of that. We're just having a conversation. Relax, drink some whiskey, whatever it is, smoke a doobie. Is that still the lingo today? I don't fucking know.
Too early right now. Just get to your point.
Yes, ma'am. So the whole thing, if we based it off of demographics, I'm sure it would correlate on a per capita region. But again, you couldn't even do that because it depends on where you're going to cherry pick. Like Thomas just said, you have multiracial people doing this. You have all sorts of people. So the issue isn't the religion. I get the whole Marilyn Manson effect, but it's not that. Otherwise, guess what we would
it's
see?
always white.
Hold on, dude.
It's always
chill,
white.
Chill. No
You
more
know
that.
Mark, have
Mark.
some discipline, please. Just please be quiet. Let him finish.
It is not always white. It's already been listed out for you. I don't know. Maybe I have to spoon feed it, but I'm telling you, they are not always white. They're not always Christian, and they, in fact, go against a lot of the religious teachings and a lot of their manifestos. So if I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm believing what the news media and a racial stereotype. Like, the majority of crimes in this country are committed by guess which race? Black people. I hear that a fucking lot. It's not true. It's not even remotely true. But I hear that a fucking lot. And it's that media narrative. It's that propaganda narrative. So this is part of the problem, Mark, is that you're actually not looking at what's going on in a case by case to actually look at solving the problem. I just said it may be as simple as that adding a parent in the home. I don't think it's Christianity. Christianity doesn't do that. I don't think Islamic, Judaism, Buddhists, or whatever fucking anybody else believes in is that triggering fact. I just don't see it. I don't. You're just give me. It's a white Christian male that was featured on CNN. That's all you have.
Can I say this,
Go
Brad?
ahead, Mrs. Clark.
I went ahead and I posted in the chat the more up-to-date information about mass shootings here in America, who's perpetrating them, so on and so forth, what type of gun they're usually using to do it, all the, like, just a lot. Now, it does not give the religious breakdown, right? That's where you got me. I would say I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that, realistically speaking, a lot of these mass shooters we've had have been white male, but that does not mean that we haven't had other. I think we all can acknowledge that.
Of Christian persuasion.
I'm not saying of Christian persuasion because I don't have the information or the factual information to back it up. So I'm not going to say that. Now, as I said, I posted the link in the chat. You can read it. You can get more educated about it or see what the graphs and things are saying, right? In this case, I think that it's one of those things that's hard to predict because if I remember correctly, the gentleman that we're talking about is 21 years old, which means he was of legal age to buy weapons. Last time I checked, he did. Brad, correct me if I'm wrong. Did he have anything on file, or was he seeing anybody that would have been able to label him a danger that would have put him on a flag list for whenever he went to purchase that gun? It would have been flagged,
well,
right?
Technically, they were struggling with their identity since 2020. So
was there anything on record to show or to be put on that background check when you run that would have labeled them as inaccessible to a gun? No, right?
No, nothing that's been reported yet. So no.
Yeah, so he wasn't seeing a doctor while he was struggling with his sexual identity that would have been able to annotate that and submit that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, this is one of those freak things where unfortunately he purchased the gun legally and he went and he did it. There would have been nothing realistically anybody would have been able to do to stop it. That's just the facts of it. It's fucked up. I hate the fact that he went out in a coward's way instead of standing 10 toes down and facing the laws of justice and facing those fucking people. It's fucked up that those children had to go through that, and some of those children had to use themselves as shields to protect other children. It's just one of those type of things. Because the reality is what? When it comes to individuals like this, they're going to find a way to do something one way or another, right? And that's the facts that we're dealing with. All this if, and, shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and what about this, what about that? No, you know how I am, Brad. Deal with the facts of the case. Don't add shit. Talk about it in the context that it is.
Yeah, but the facts is
the context
saying it's just saying it's just one of those things. It's kind of wild, respectfully. And hello, Miss Clark, it's been a while. It's kind of I don't necessarily know I want to accept that. But we're pushing back against this thesis that they're white Christian men. That is definitely not. The evidence does not.
So let's do this.
Christian.
Wait, because I don't mind doing this. We can blame. Wait, hold on. So why don't we do this? So Thomas actually had a whole list going. I don't know if Thomas can do it or somebody who's got. Because like right now, I'm trying to figure out how to not break this crock pot. I'm now on my third one. So what I'm trying to do is let's see. Can anybody break this down real quick? What is the race of those? And I'm willing to bet it probably is overwhelmingly white. I'm willing to bet it's probably male. Those are two.
Brad, are you about to ask about active shooters and shit, and then like the stats on them?
No. Like listen to it. We're talking about a school shooter, so let's go ahead and diagnose this. Like let's find it because maybe it is. Maybe it's as simple as, you know what? Let's fucking remove all the white kids out of the male kids that, you know, I don't know, have like fucking, yeah, I don't know, whatever. They play fucking
It's overwhelmingly white. It's overwhelmingly white. Over 90%. Over 90%. Over 90%.
It's not 90%.
It's not.
It's over 90% up until recently.
It's not.
I got it.
Up until recently,
I don't like
yes.
doing this at all. I just hate when I have to do this, but I have to do this. Please, everyone will get a chance to speak. No need to talk over, and please be courteous of other speakers. If you just joined the room, don't just get up there and try to speak. Understand other people have been waiting to speak in front of you. Also, if you are on stage, you need to cash in your pink ticket to be able to stay and speak. Sorry, and a lot of pink tickets in the audience. Please cash those pink tickets in, and I'll go ahead and go on mute now. I think it was Was it Miss Clark that wanted to finish her point?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
was Weedman? Okay. Miss Clark, finish your point, and then I believe Weedman wanted to,
Throw me in the queue. Throw me in the queue too after we've been.
Okay, so just so that way we can have a quick breakdown, I'm going to move through this quick, right? Location and timing. Most mass shootings are likely to occur in workplaces and school. Weapon. Handguns are the most commonly used weapons in mass shootings at 74%. Rifles are at 32%. Shotguns are at 16%. Perpetrators. Perpetrators usually tend to be white at 54%. Perpetrators are overwhelmingly male at 95.3%. The average age of a mass shooter in this country is 34.5 years old. As I said, it does not give the ideological demographic of if they're Christian, if they're Pentecostal, all that other stuff. And the site that I have does not list if they're normally Republican or Democrat or far right, far left, or anything like that. Mass shootings are most commonly perpetrated with handguns, one being at least handguns, like I said, 73.5% here, and at least one rifle, 32.5%, at least one shotgun, 15%. Most mass shootings involve a single weapon, sitting at 66.67%. And most mass shooter perpetrators are typically males, with solo males being 94.6%, solo female only being 3.8%, male-female pair being 1%, and two males being less than 0.6%. There's the information.
Okay, so it should be. So just real quick, I want to emphasize it. So it's 54% white males. All right, that's probably in alignment with the racial breakdown of the country. Are we all in agreement?
Yeah, it is, Brad. But it says she's right. 54% whites. It's also 22 to 26% black, and it's 10% Latino.
All right.
Just to add those stats.
You know what? Fine. Then we are all on board. We agree that maybe it's not just the skin characteristics. Oh my God, we might get somewhere. It may not just be the skin characteristics. It may be something a little bit more deeper. All right, go ahead, Finley, or whoever was next.
I believe it was Weedman.
Yeah, Weedman, go ahead.
Weedman.
Oh, Weedman, I'm sorry.
No, she broke it down. She effectively broke down what the statistics are. They waiver, essentially the FBI and the CIA does extensive research on this. Actually, one of my concentrations for my bachelor's degree was school and campus security. So what we did is we go back to the 1800s when the first documented attacks on schools actually started to happen. And it gets pretty deep. With that being said, her statistics are right. I would say more in the recent years, we've seen what would be off base of the norm, which was white, middle-aged men from the age of 35 to 45, whether you're talking about schools, active shooters out and about in the world, it's middle-aged white men. That's been typically the 90+% ratio up until I think just the last couple of shootings might offset it a little bit because there were some different, racial ethnicities involved. Nonetheless, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't think race is the biggest deal here, right? And I think we can all agree to that. We have kids that are being shot, and what's happening is they're realizing that people within my community, the security and risk management industry, are paying attention, and we're making moves, and now schools and communities are reacting, and so we're able to install different things and try different measures, and we're testing, we're exploring options, right? There's never going to be a picture-perfect situation here unless the truth is we lock the fucking school down. And then even if we do, we have what took place just the other day. I don't know if this is the Minnesota shooting, but is this the one where he shot through the windows? This is because there was like two of them in just the last couple of days. Is this the one where he shot through the windows?
Yes, this is the one where he shot through the windows.
So we get to this point now, which was my biggest worry through all my studies over the last 20 years in college and in this profession, is that we can create great access control, remove bottleneck situations from that access control. We could do a lot, right? What we can never stop is somebody from the outside just shooting fucking in. If somebody's determined to shoot, kill, and harm, they're going to do it. They're going to find a way, whether it's a bomb, a knife, a sword. You look at China, you look at England, you see all types of violent acts in mass, right? And they're not used with firearms. I think just a couple of years ago, some fucker walked into a goddamn mall with a goddamn sword and chopped fucking 33 people up. Now, did most of the people survive? Yes. And I think so there's a difference there. Nonetheless, race, while it's a topic in the discussion, those of us in this industry are cued in on what's taking place, on the actors, the people that are investigating these things. They're aware of these breakdowns and these statistics based on the information we receive. And I could just say I don't think that should be the main sticking point in conversation. I think it's divisive. I think it doesn't allow us to get to a solution. And I'm going to pass the mic real quick so I can be as long.
Can I speak, please? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I'll let you
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go after her.
Thank you. I just wanted to know if we brought up mental illness, isolation, bullying. I think when you have that combination, it just adds to the piece of the puzzle. You know, that isolation, especially from their parents. That the parents don't know what's going on. So I think mental illness needs to be really up there too. I mean, gun prevention, of course, but these kids, some kids out there, I don't know what's going on with them, but yeah.
So the National Alliance of Mental Health says that, just real quick.
No, it's Mr. Finley's turn. Thank you.
So the Violence Project talks about this, and I think one of the reasons that we think that most mass shootings are white males because we're thinking about school shootings, and they tend to make the national headlines, whereas your day-to-day quote-unquote urban violence amongst people of color tends to be, not always multiple victims, and it tends to be, it's the narrative. Like, so if it's a gang-related violence and, like, 2 people got shot, it's not gonna make national news. It may make no local news, but it's not gonna make national news. But when Tyrone does that with Pookie in it, right, with 2-3 people. But if Chad decides to go in and shoot up, the school, and kills, 15 people randomly, because of whatever reason that he has, because his brain ain't wired correctly, that makes national news, and of course that's what's highlighted. So that's what the perception is, and it's not the reality. But I want to point to something that another part to my thesis about: one, we don't have the community we used to. Number two, the way that we are, especially in the school system, the way that we are raising boys. You may not believe this. I know that there's patriarchy people out there that believe there's oppressive patriarchy. Boys are failing. They are failing. They're slowly checking out of society. And it starts young, because the way we educate boys, there's a whole problem systemically. And these aren't my words. There are multiple organizations that talk about this. That there is a problem there. And when solutions are offered, the pushback is, no, we can't do that for boys specifically because we're going to go back to the old system, patriarchy, evil, blah, 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 blah. But the reality is there is a male deficit happening right now with respect to economically, educationally. I mean, if you've been to high school graduation or college graduation, look at the top performers. They're mostly all girls. There's a guy sprinkling there every now and again, but mostly all girls. There's a problem there. And I think it's worth having.
I think, someone want to jump off? Someone jump off their mic? No, I just needed to ask somebody who knows how to cook. Do I heat the crock pot bowl up first before I put it in the stupid fucking thing?
Dear Mrs. Bradley, no.
No, you don't do that.
That's funny as fuck. So you just put it in as is, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Go on.
Is the fire department on your speed dial, Brad, before you do that? Just make sure you get
Bro, you better preheat that fucking crock pot, bro.
He's more kitchen appliances.
End up with a fucking screw worm.
An entire country, I swear to God, he's blowing up more kitchen appliances than anyone.
What is he making?
I'm surprised he's still around, bro.
KK, what is he
You're very, very resilient.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mrs.
What is he making?
A pile of mess. That's what he's making. You know,
Grits.
he actually food.
Grits, bro.
Bradley, what are you making, honey?
I'm gonna try to make a shepherd's pie.
He's making shepherd's fucking pie. He's making shepherd's fucking pie.
Whatever. The video thing. It says an 8-step recipe is easy. I just needed a crock pot. So I got a quarter lamb.
Baby, no.
I shaved
The
that
lamb
thing.
is cooked in the crock pot. We're not putting the potatoes. We have to boil the potatoes, mash them, and then bake them.
This is fucking way too complex. I'm just doing it by this recipe. We'll see if it goes and happens again.
Yeah, I got you, bro. I got you. God bless you, bro.
The first thing you want to do, Brett. The first thing you want to do, Brad, is you want to score the crust with the mat.
You can't say the word score. He doesn't know what score means, Blake. He thinks he's thinking about football or rugby. Okay, let's get back to the conversation, please.
All right, so back to
style. Just don't talk over. Just don't talk over each other. Did someone new want to get it?
Yeah, I wanted to. Well, I was going to risk.
I'll get in there.
Because I remember talking about mass shootings being 4 or more, and I think that's like intellectually dishonest. Because, like, for example, if I'm in a street gang, and I know my ops are standing in front of this gas station, and I go do a drive-by, and 5 people get shot, people are still not going to call that a mass. If you could say technically it is, but no one's going to call that a mass shooting. Now, if a random guy walks into a Walmart and just starts shooting up the place because he's crazy in the head, that's a mass shooting. So I think just because something legally says 4 or more, we all know what really a mass shooting is compared to like gang activity.
Well, we have to define drive-by shootings, DJ. Again, this is a lot of us have a 1990s view of like violence. That isn't as common as it used to be. And believe it or not, I get the legal definition, but the 3 or less is not as rampant as you think it is. And gang violence is tracked a little bit differently, and there's a ton of data on gang violence. But I know that we're trying to make the comparison between the drive-bys and the school shootings. And again, I address that there is a narrative problem here, to be fair. Which is why we think it's all white males. But that drive-by narrative just isn't a thing anymore. Not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not like it used to be in the 90s. It's like rare, very rare.
Detroit's way more calm, but do you guys want to, like, just for sake of argument, define mass shootings in a very specific way? Then we can all be on the same page with each other.
A mass shooting is defined as 4 or more people being shot at one time.
So let's stick with that. We stick with that. All right. For simplicity's sake, thank you, Marshall.
Yeah. Okay.
That's regardless.
There's another term that we could add in. I think technically, is it a catastrophe in this case?
I think anybody being shot is catastrophe.
Obvious.
Two or more deaths define catastrophe.
Sure. But my thing is this: is to DJ's point is. It's almost as if we want to, it appears this way, as we want to sit back and kind of differentiate the killings of one group compared to another. If someone goes into a bank or a school or whatever and starts killing a bunch of people, now the gentleman, as far as I know, the two children died, from as far as I know, in the shooting that took place recently. If a guy is driving and trying to get his ops and he ends up shooting, 4 or 5 people, the death is the death. But like how they died or for whatever reason they died should not matter.
Yeah, let's stick with the basic.
They were killed. So I don't like playing the semantics game respectfully, saying, oh well, he did it because of this XYZ, but this guy did it because he was doing it running away from the ops. He was trying to deal with the ops. So I'm just like, but they murdered niggas, and that's all that matters. But that's just
Thomas, the
context does matter,
right? Because how you deal with it is going to differ. This is why cities that are doing a good job of dealing with violence are finally able to deal with it, because they look at the underlying issue instead of we're just going to be aggressive and just be aggressive for the aggressive sake, right? That's not how you deal with crime. You're going to deal with the school shooting incidents, which we're really not dealing with, differently than the gang violence, because gang violence, you can look at the underlying issues to stem that and slow it down. I mean, it'd probably never stop it, but to slow it down.
But to that point, Mr. Finley, as someone pointed out to the chat, hold on just 1 minute, please. I'll just be brief. are we discussing mass shootings in general or and specifically in this case school mass shootings, because the remedy and the prevention of it does have some different variables. So which one is it, gentlemen?
I thought we were specifically talking about school shootings, but
all right, let's stick with that. Let's stick with that for simplicity's sake.
I mean school mass shootings specifically.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
I mean, at the end
let's
of the
stick to
day,
school because it's in the title.
well, I'll put it like this: they're all fucking crazy.
Shed some light on like this situation to like help y'all out.
Oh, help us out, brother. Go ahead.
I actually live in Minnesota and I actually work with the BCA, and I've been working on this case. I was on vacation for 10 days, so I like just hopped on it within the past 2 days. To give y'all some information, I would actually really consider this more of like a terrorist attack. This is something that's been going on that for whatever reason the news has not been like specifically telling people is related to these online groups or these terrorist organizations. This one specifically, I would just relate it to the NVE group. They're called the Nihilistic Violent Extremists. Heavily related to a group called Terrorgram. So if anybody remembers the shooting that happened December of last year, the girl's name was Natalie Samantha Rupnaw. Her name was on the gun. A lot of these things like that you wouldn't think are related are heavily related, and it's all like terrorist activities. So there's basically these online groups. They vary in age, and they're
wait. Can you hold on a second, sir? So I'm from Minnesota myself as well. I'm up by Two Harbors. Okay. So, first, Rydell, I don't know what ERR means on the crockpot thingy, so like this is not fucking done. I give up. Secondly,
error.
But what is this guy? I mean, then you're the whatever Saint, whatever SMT, whatever. Do you have proof of this? Do you have like some evidence of this? Because this is the first I'm hearing about this. Because I've never heard of an online terror troll farm that's recruiting people across the nation to commit school attacks. Like that's just. I mean, that seems like something that would have been released by the FBI, or at least schools would have been made aware of, and parents would have been made aware of. I'm sorry, it's not that I hate you.
Do kids have roadblocks? You should be concerned.
I can definitely. I mean, yeah, I can.
Terrorgram is a real thing. It did it.
Yeah.
So I've seen it in the news and stuff.
Because like this is the first I'm hearing it.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you.
I think it's like basically it's a collective of different terrorist groups. Groups that are like anything from like accelerationist neo-Nazis to just sick fucks that glorify mass shootings and shit. And they do weird things, like they'll have like shrines for the people that have done these mass shootings. It's just I don't actually participate in those places, obviously, but it does exist.
Thank you. Thank you, Pete. SNT, can you elaborate a little bit more on what he said too? Because, like, again, I'm not trying to draw anything. I'm not trying to make a mockery of anybody. I have ignorance on this. I am completely ignorant to this facet of this conversation.
No, Telegram as IMC is actually is very.
Can I let SNT go, Meg? You can go right after him, but can we let him go? Because I really want to hear this. And since he brought it up, I heard what Pete said. And I value what Pete said. I just want to hear what SNT has to contribute.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are ignorant. That's the only reason I came in here. I know that I was ignorant to this, so I'm just trying to like lay out the facts so people aren't ignorant, because it's actually a big deal.
Do you have sources like we can post? Because KK's got spirit figures and a hat, but I don't know if she knows.
Once I finish talking, like I'll gladly post like some links off of research that I've done that I'm allowed to like post in the chat for you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So basically, I'll say like with us specifically, we have had a string of what's known as swatting calls. So they're basically like fake 911 calls that come in, and these groups basically are inciting each other to get points on a leaderboard. They gamify this, so it actually gets into like what Pepe said, like neo-Nazism, accelerationism, where they have these concepts that basically the white race is in peril and they are doing what they have to do, and they want to overthrow the government and basically insert a new world order, in which case they are secure.
Can we also toss in Scientologists in that mix just because?
So, another important aspect of this is, I would say, like, the children. For whatever reason, a lot of these groups are actually, like, kind of obsessed with it. A lot of them are pedophiles. A lot of them actually specific. So this group, Telegram, is under another group. It's like an umbrella. It's called the 764 Network. That's, like, specifically really well known for basically having children take videos of sexual acts of themselves and then blackmailing them to get them to do various acts, whether it's acts like harm animals, acts where they harm themselves. And they radicalize these kids into these people that you're like seeing today. You know, these mass shooters. So
damn, man,
back to the swatting calls.
Shit. Holy crap.
So back to the swatting calls. So it starts with swatting calls, fake 911 calls. They're starting to get these points on this leaderboard, right? You get more points the crazier things you do. So I'll say it's not 1,000% sure, but there was a shooting in Minnesota on Lake and Stevens Street in Minneapolis, in which case 2 men were shot, but there was no suspect. It's possible that that one was related. Then that was on the 23rd. On the 26th, the day before yesterday, there was a shooting at 3,300. I can't think of the street name, but there was a shooting at 3,300 something right outside of another Catholic school, in which case 7 people were shot and I believe 1 was killed. It's heavily possible that that one is related, so I'm kind of pointing out like how things are progressing because they're getting more points on the leaderboard in these groups, right?
Should we add in kids doing like car theft as one of the examples? Basically getting kids to be recruited into doing part of these acts.
Yeah, car theft and like just severe beatings or like animal cruelty. I mean, those are other examples. So anyways, on the 27th now, we get to the shooting, in which case 20 people are injured, 2 are killed, or 17, I apologize. And this person could have killed more people. Obviously, like, they only used 2 magazines out of like the 5 to 7 that they had. They also had 3 pistol magazines and they had a shotgun, from my understanding, that was not used. And then they got away. Actually, to be specific, yesterday they did get away, but instead of driving off, they stayed there, walked around in a park, and then killed themselves. When they do these bigger acts, this is where you get into like the Satanist ideology of it. They consider themselves, they call them a saint. They anoint them, quote unquote, as a saint. And that's why Samantha Ruppnow is like a great example of that, where she references somebody in like Turkey who killed a few people at a gay bar as a saint, because in these groups, whenever they want like notoriety, some strange reason, doesn't quite make sense within the holistic point of view, but they want notoriety, they get clout, quote unquote, and they become these saints. So the higher you get on the leaderboard, the more people you kill, the higher chances of you becoming the saint in the group. So I'll kind of leave it at that. I just think it's important to like note, because for whatever reason, like I said, they don't share, like, a lot of these cases are heavily connected, and it's not really hard to like, I guess, find that from just like reading. But it's important to know that these are like terrorists, like terrorists.
This is fascinating. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, this is absolutely fascinating because
It is. I've never heard of it.
yeah, no, this is crazy, and if this is happening, I just could imagine foreign governments leveraging, this is a new kind of troll farm, if you really think about it. We have a similar thing, this whole vigilante thing going on here in Calgary, where the gangs are getting little kids to kind of pose as to try to find out sexual predators. This is in Calgary, Alberta, and we have a lot of very conservative people, conservative Christians and conservative Muslims here, and they're really, I don't know anybody that likes sexual predators, but there's been a couple cases, I think 3 this year, where kids under the age of 14 were luring sexual predators, and just last week one kid got picked up in a van with no windows, and their friends followed him around, and they brought the cops in and they arrested the guy. So this kind of vigilante, for whatever cause, whatever reason, going out of your way, doing crazy shit, whether it's
can I add to that?
Yeah,
here?
crazy.
So I own residency in Alberta, so they're actually attached to the ICE unit, the Internet Child Exploitation Division. The only reason why I know that is my husband does K-9 training for the RCMP. So I know exactly what you're talking about. 2 of the cases were actually attached with law enforcement with parents' complete involvement. So it's not complete vigilante. However, I know what you're saying, but I just want to make sure, the case you're talking about, I know exactly what you're talking about. The ICE unit was a part of that. It wasn't just kids for the hell of it.
So I have a question to those in the room, because, again, this is all fascinating to me. I did not know this was going on. Thank God my kids are grown. So why hasn't this been, brought up in the news? Why? We just had this Minnesota school. Jacob Fry. Hold on. Wait, hold on. I've got Jacob Fry on my fucking TV right now giving me the "we just need to ban" speech, and then we're going to rally this with Ilhan Omar going, "America is a terrorist country and we need to stop this vile hate," and going down these rhetorics, but nobody mentioning this part. This, parents knew about this because, they're working, they can only do so much in the time. But if they knew this shit was actually going on, they would be like me, hold on a moment, what the fuck is my kid doing? It's no,
this shit is harder to control.
I didn't ask you. Hold on. I didn't ask you. I asked the people that are in the U.S. that know this stuff. You just found out. You're in Calgary. You don't know this. So, who knows this?
Brad, as someone who's in Minneapolis, these are the same people that the police force left loaded guns inside their cars during the very first night of George Floyd protests. The cop car gets broken into. And so because they use the claim from the police, go get the loaded gun that someone broke the cop car because they just wanted to cause damage to the cop car, nothing more than getting a gun. They released tear gas indiscriminately to everyone. Same people. So, I'm not surprised.
Brad, I was going to go up your cast.
Thank you, Mr. Fundy. Brad, I just want to say thank you for asking that question, because I didn't know that either, and it makes a lot of sense, because now I'm thinking these are not lone wolf incidents as we thought before. Probably there is something to it, that is a network that we can look at. But this is this is really fascinating news to me, and thank you, I'm the Saint, for saying this, and also Brad for investigating.
Yeah, thanks for this room, Brad. I mean, this is fascinating. The same shit's gonna end up happening in Canada too, so it's not completely off topic. Definitely.
I agree. It's something. Excuse me, Mr. Finley. I'll go right straight back to you, sir. Something that's interesting, and it goes back to the full circle of what someone had brought up earlier, and we only had this room open for an hour, which is the parent being removed from the actual family, the parents not being actively engaging with their child. So these young teens in particular, can engage in really deep dive search onto their tablets, onto their computer screens within this community. It does tie into it. I'm opening my eyes to it as well. I'm the Saint. I would love to do a room on this topic, just to open the ears and eyes of parents that may have young teens. I'm going to add you as a friend right now, and I would love to chat with you about this. Go ahead, Mr. Finley, and
So with this group specifically, because I've heard of it before, but from my understanding, it's like very fringe and like only a couple of cases here in the States, because it's not just here in the States that this group has had influence on. There's like other instances in other countries, but it's like very fringe, and it's like the connections aren't there to say that there's a pattern that we have to do that it requires a response. I think again, there's only been like 2 people that are loosely connected to this particular online group, as far as I understand.
Could you go into more detail about what you understand about?
So it's been mentioned. So I study criminal justice still, and I read a lot of stuff like by the Violence Project, the Innocence Project. Like there's different groups that I read a lot about, and I've heard this, like whenever there's a mass shooting, once the dust settles and like the facts come out, and not in the news facts, but like the facts come out from the organizations, they talk about what they've investigated, et cetera, and they write about this stuff. Like it's been mentioned, right? But it's not that there's a clear. It's not been mentioned enough that there's a clear link between all of the school shooters here. There's only been 2 in which this has been loosely mentioned. When doing the quote unquote, the Madison is one that I can think of off the top of my head. I forget the other one, but I know the Madison shooter because that's when I first. Because I used to be in law enforcement in Wisconsin, so I still follow a lot of stuff there. And so the Madison shooter, and I forget the other one, but the Madison shooter for sure. But there's one other one, but I can't remember the name of it. But if you guys are really interested in like really digging past this, and I too got off of the white male train when I started digging into even like shooting, like mass shootings, because you begin to understand the narrative and what draws attention and what does not, which is why we shape our minds around this. But again, that's also why I have the thesis that this divestment in boys is kind of creating all of these problems, because there's uptick in youth crime amongst young men. Obviously, school shootings is the problem. Dropout rates of young men is bad. Reading scores are bad. It's just bad all around.
In the Minnesota area, we kind of set a giant middle finger to the federal government for funding because it came with so many strings attached that they couldn't run the schools the way that they were. And so then the federal government said, okay, we're going to discontinue all of your government grant foundations. So Minnesota just got hit with every government-funded non-for-profit was unfunded. So add that to the mix of this current time.
Yeah, so just to clarify, whatever facts or lack thereof that were just shared. So December 16th, 2024 in Madison, Wisconsin, what he's referencing, Natalie Samantha Rupp now. Telegram is also related to the January 6th incident in 2021 that happened at the riot at the Capitol. There was an incident March 1st in Waukesha, Wisconsin with Nikita Capps that was related to the terrorist organization known as the Order of Nine Angles. May 18th, 2025, Los Angeles, California, Guy Edward Bartkus. January 22nd, 2025, Nashville, Tennessee, Solomon Henderson. July 28th, 2025, New York City, New York, Shane Samora. And to be specific in global incidents, because this isn't just over here, there's May 20th, 2025 in Pirkkala, Finland, where I believe he was 15 or 16, went to school and videotaped himself stabbing his schoolmates. Then there was another incident, the one that Natalie Samantha Rupp now from Madison, Wisconsin referenced, August 12th, 2024, that happened in Eskişehir, Turkey, from Arda. I apologize. I have no clue how to pronounce that. But just to be specific, these are some incidents that are actually related based on literally the manifestos of the people who did them and their social media accounts of like the past year alone.
So I'm just going to say this real quick. Hold on. So as I'm deep diving while I'm listening to UST and Joe and a couple others, I mean, I even found that, I guess apparently this is real enough that Frontline did an expose on this along with National Geographic and other entities are starting to do exposés on this. Like BBC is now going to pick this up. ProPublica is picking this up. So now I'm like, I feel really dumb. I had no idea idea this was going on. I mean, and you know what? The way it comes across, I probably would have just threw it out there as a conspiracy theory or some other crackpot kind of far-reaching thing like Martian moles take over
But
DC.
it's a new culture of violence, and violence has evolved over centuries.
So to be clear to S&T's point, there is a larger group that I am not familiar with. I'm speaking specifically to school shooters in this particular group. That there is a larger group, and I also did mention that it's not just in the States. I did mention that it's global.
Let's hear it from public media, because actually this is where I first, no, maybe not first or second. I'd heard of Telegram, and I know that Telegram, one of them came from Telegram, which I've sort of been a bit suspect of. So I was taking my suspicion of Telegram, and actually NPR did something on Telegram. And I was like, hold on, Telegram, or they looked talking about Telegram, so that's why I watched it. So NPR actually broke one of the stories about Telegram. They also included, I think it was 4chan is the other thing that's also you can look up. But yeah, let's hear it for public broadcasting. NPR did do a really great expose on this a while ago.
Wait, why would we want to fund it? Let's cut funding.
So in my home in British Columbia, Amanda Todd, I don't know if you guys remember this story. She's a 15-year-old girl from British Columbia, and what happened is that she died by suicide, right, in 2012, and so this was an early case of online manipulation. She was being like prolongedly harassed by this dude from the Netherlands, right? So she posted a video in September 2012, right, of her using flashcards saying that she was exposing herself, like her body to by webcam to a stranger, and he said, you know, if you don't send me pictures of you doing all these weird things, and I'm gonna it was a sextortion case and cyberbullying, and it was this Dutch guy, Aiden Kohan, this Dutch-Turkish guy. He was in Netherlands, and he was already convicted multiple times for online sexual extortion, and they actually brought this motherfucker to BC here, and he's in Canada now. He's got 13 years in prison. So I mean, this kind of online manipulation of young people. Yeah, it's just going to get worse because the technology is getting more sophisticated. This is fascinating.
Hold on, because so before anyone goes, hey, welcome, Cedric. I'm not going to berate you. You can have all sorts of opinions up here. I don't, as long as you can back it up and support them. But I'm just really fascinated currently. I just went to the State Department, and I shit you not, this is on here. The Department of State is designating Telegram Collective and its 3 leaders as specifically designated global terrorists pursuant to EO 13224 as amended January 13th, 2025. So this, ladies and gentlemen, was actually instituted by Biden's administration and codified over by the Trump administration. So 2 separate opposite administrations have carried this over. It goes through, Telegram is a transnational terrorist group that primarily operates on the social media and digital messaging platform Telegram. The group promotes violent white supremacists, solicits attacks or perceived adversaries, and provides guidance and instructional materials on tactics, methods, and targets for attacks, including critical infrastructure and government officials. The group also glorifies those who have conducted such abhorrent attacks. Attacks or attempted attacks by Telegram users motivated and facilitated by the group include the October 22 shooting outside an LGBTQI+ bar in Slovakia, a July 2024 planned attack on energy facilities in New Jersey, the August 24 knife attack on the mosque in Turkey, the September 24 DOJ charged 2 U.S. Telegram leaders with 15-count indictment for soliciting hate crimes, soliciting murder of federal officials, and conspiring to provide material to support terrorists. Additionally, the State Department has designated 3 leaders of Telegram as SDGTs, pursuant to EO 13224 as amended. Ciro Daniel Armane Ferrari is a Telegram channel administrator. Ferrer is a Brazilian national residing in Brazil. He'll never leave there. Nolasu is a senior member of Telegram, is located in Croatian national residence in Croatia. And Hendrik Wall Mueller is a Telegram channel administration. He's a South African national residing in South Africa. South Africa will give your ass up. I believe they will. So yeah, this is like some real shit. Why didn't we hear about this? Why are we talking about?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Brad. Why haven't we heard about it?
It's a fucking hydra. It's got no head. You cut it off. It's
This
gonna
is
pop up somewhere else.
Yeah, it's decentralized for sure. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I think we. What's crazy is that like this is what we're supposed to be focusing on. I think both sides of the aisle can definitely get together on this and try to like figure what this fit is, because like I don't know why it has to like be one or the other, but this is crazy though. This is the first time I'm hearing this. I'm kind of shocked that this isn't like mainstream knowledge. So thanks to I'm the Saint for that. It's also kind of a little ironic because the cult also venerates the saints, and you have I'm the Saint on it too. Just
local
It's actually
Republican.
not mainstream though. That's actually what's so what we're talking about is that I first picked it up off of Telegram and NPR, and then I'm the Saint works in this, and then we're picking this up off of the channels. But the major broadcasting stations are not broadcasting this. I've only found it on NPR as far as in articles on stuff like that, or on Telegram.
So when people say that, why haven't the news been talking about this? One of two reasons why. One, if this became mainstream media coverage, then A, you're going to legitimize them, or B, you're going to drive them underground.
No, option C, you're going to glorify it. It's the same reason why.
That's what I mean by legitimizing.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the same thing as to why when human trafficking operations take place, it's not broadcasted, because what we don't want is for people who are sick fucks to get off, right? Exactly. On seeing the victims and the cases and the information. So you generally would have to know where to look to actually see the court case and the entire operation from beginning to end. So I think that the moment, you're right, sorry Adrian, you're correct. The moment you legitimize it and you bring it to surface, you're indirectly recruiting.
Exactly. And then there's VPNs, and there's all sorts of different ways of hiding exactly where you're living. I mean, it sounds like these guys are pretty committed to the cause, and they've been doing it for a long time. That's why we know who they are. But if you have crazy kids using the internet to do crazy shit, if it's a one-off, good luck trying to find out who they are. Like, you know. And the other thing is that, you know, how much control do you want over the internet, right? Control, like, even all these massive social media companies or internet companies, whatnot, they can't have total control over everything. Like, it's a hard problem.
Well, that's actually that's where they flourish. One of the reasons it flourished so much on Telegram is because it's very unmodified or moderated. Yes, Telegram is significantly unmoderated, so that's why it flourished so well on Telegram.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I mean, a lot of social media is like controlled by somebody. Like, a lot of the internet is already controlled, so I don't know why you couldn't just, you know, filter the kind of messages and information that is being, you know, going through your system, and just stop that from happening. Like, it's completely possible.
I'm
just saying it is possible, because someone was saying that, like, you can't stop it, and that's the point I was making in the chat, that I think some people you know, always bring up this counterpoint of, like, not being censored, or, like, you know, someone not having too much control over the internet, which they already do. They can, you know, stop you from saying certain things already. I don't know why some people are like want to, you know, at the risk of allowing this kind of culture to continue, like, they just want to protect some kind of, like, free speech thing, which even isn't a free speech thing. You know, things on the internet. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think people should get over that, and things that are obviously influencing a certain kind of outcome. I think it should be okay to censor that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, if I was the leader of a very, let's say, North Korea, very unfriendly country, and I wanted to create a whole bunch of problems, but I didn't have tons and tons of money, man, you know, recruiting very mentally unstable teenagers is not a bad idea. It's a cheap way to rip apart the culture of, it's asymmetrical warfare at its highest. It could be asymmetrical warfare. I'm not saying it is at this moment, but.
Well, you also have the administrators of the platforms, and I think, I'm not sure if this is, as to my knowledge, Telegram is founded and still owned by a foreign national. Maybe Russian. I think he is Russian. Yeah. So there's a certain amount that can get through because Russia has very different, and also him as the owner has, I guess, a very low moral code. But no, if this was in the U.S. and this was like Instagram, it would probably get censored. But no, this is from a Russian Telegram and from a Russian owner, and it's kind of interesting actually how the shooter had Russian written, although incorrectly, in English on the guns. That's a little bit creepy actually, but.
I want to go.
A lot they are foreign owned causes problems.
So I want to go back to this Minnesota school shooter. So we're saying that this Minnesota trans shooter, because apparently they were trans, and that's got to be the highlight talking point. But apparently this shooter, the school shooter, is somehow connected to this organization that I'm now watching. Like, I got a pool of documentaries and research on it, and I guess apparently they're responsible for the Christchurch attack. So somehow it's correlated to this? I'm confused.
Yeah, so again, on their rifle, which I may even have a picture of, I'll look, but in the video that they posted on YouTube, on their rifle, they had painted the name Rupnow, Samantha Rupnow from the Madison, Wisconsin attack onto their gun. So, and an example of what I was saying about the Saints culture, that girl, Samantha Rupnow, committed a heinous act, in which case hit their leaderboards, and so they revered her now as a saint. And this person specifically looked up to Samantha Rupnow, thus putting her name on their gun.
Right, it's like these crazy fucks in Europe who say, like, in the name of, I don't know, what is it, ISIS or something, they kill someone. It's not as if they're organized insider member of ISIS. It's just that they go online, they spend all this time in their parents' basements, they get inspired by them, and then they do shit and they want to claim association with them. It is a loose association. To what degree or not, well, that's, debatable, right? Under how much influence, it's probably a case-by-case sort of thing. But it is one of these things where the intentions of the individual person is terrorism. And they may claim to be, part of this terrorist group, but they may have never been to, ISIS, they've never been to Iraq or whatever, Syria. And so it's one of these things where, crazy people with lots of bad ideas meet each other, give each other worse ideas, and then claim association.
I just don't. So I just want to. Anyways, I'm like, let me not. I don't like giving. I'm not even trying to give like personal opinion any of this. I just think the facts are important. I'll just give an example of. I brought up March 1st in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Basically there was a boy who killed both of his parents.
Waukesha.
Thank you. I'm like, I have no clue how to say it. Waukesha, Wisconsin. He killed both of his parents, and during the trial referenced the Order of Nine Angles. So this group, also known as the O9A, they're actually like heavily organized, and they have like roots back to like the 1970s, and this group specifically goes out of its way to have its recruits rise through its ranks by basically infiltrating political sectors, law enforcement sectors, basically to help them do the things that they are doing. And this is a global organization. One example is I think it was 2020. Let me look through in 2020 there was a person in the U.S. military, Shandon Simpson, who was found to be like one of the people that was in this 09A order. So to like basically give like a visual concept, there is a large umbrella known as like the COM network. Under that umbrella, one of the groups is like the 764 network, but there's other ones like the Ottawaffen division, groups where they have arrested some of the higher ups. Just like Telegram, they have arrested some of the higher ups, yet we still, over the past year, have had multiple occurrences where people are tied to this network and committing these heinous crimes. If we're like on Clubhouse right now and we're all in this house and we see each other every day, excuse me, and we hold true to these ideologies. I mean, I think like, for example, we know how people on Clubhouse historically over the past like 5 or 6 years have planned huge events, have done like things, you know what I mean? The social media networks that they're using are simply like this but encrypted. Discord is just like this but encrypted with better text form. Another one is Signal. Was it last year that they were mad at the president because those military plans they were talking about them on Telegram, and they invited the journalists and they screenshotted them? Like, these are encrypted networks that a lot of people are using, that basically these people are using them to keep this violent information that they're sharing amongst each other safe without obviously getting caught and arrested. They're sending out, like books, zines, programs, whatever you want to call it, on like how to make poison, how to make bombs, how to properly kill somebody, how to properly plan, something like this, in which case to like route yourself into an area and get like, these are like things that are actually, like, in my opinion, in some cases, very well organized, depending on the person. And I would say this from the evidence of, you have the people who are just calling 911 with fake information, and then you have the people who are actually starting to commit these acts, and then you have the people who are doing like these bigger events of terrorism.
So, I understand all that, but here's where I'm drawing, like, based on what you cited, and then what I'm reading, because like I'm just completely fascinated, and then what I'm watching, like, just quickly on clips here, everything goes, it's white supremacy. However, I'm gonna carve this one out. There seems to be, it does have this like nationalistic tendency. I'm not going to discount that, but I'm confused as if the leaders, not all of them, they're not all white. That's an amazing part, and not all the people in this seem to be like I would say white supremacist, but it's labeled as a white supremacy, and I mean. I think the reason why it got missed and why people aren't aware of this actual being spread, because this is actually calling, like, I'm looking at like chats that they've managed to excerpts from court cases. They're showing like, oh, target your church. Like, that doesn't come from like white supremacist groups. This is something far beyond that, I would say. Like, am I missing something, or is this just the way the news media is trying to label this? They can't figure out what this really is, or am I missing?
I mean, there are white supremacist groups that hate Christianity, so I wouldn't say that.
I apologize.
That's contradictory. Like, I'm not saying most of them, but there's a big section that think Christianity is like a foreign religion that is not European. So, again.
So yeah, for the 764 network, which houses Telegram, is actually heavily influenced by that group that I referenced earlier, the 09A, so the Order of Nine Ingles. And I think I posted a short link on them in the chat, but I would do some research into that because that kind of answers your question. So this specific group is one of the Satanist groups that I was referencing, and they actually are heavily against the Western when Pepe was up here earlier and brought up accelerationism, accelerationists are extremists who want to, in this order of things we're talking about, who wants to basically have a new world order. This group, the Order of Nine Ingles, which heavily influenced all of these groups, is Satanist, and they are heavily against Judeo-Christian values, and they feel like our government and system in the Western world is too influenced by these Christian values. So if you saw the video, for example, from the Minnesota situation, you saw like on the gas canisters it said Jew gas. Just to kind of like tie it all together. So they have like this concept that I actually was just reading about it last night, but basically they believe that they're going to basically destroy the government here, and then at some point they're going to usher in this new world order of white supremacy. Then we're in like a phase where there's an aeon, so like a god that people worship. So they're considering America the aeon right now. This is where we're getting into like the Satanist concepts, right? So like everybody in the world is worshiping America, this aeon. Once that falls, a new aeon is brought in, but they're considering it like some time in relation to like its Imperium. I haven't fully read on it. God forgive me. I did post one of the leaks. Something about colonizing outer space, and also like when the Imperium thing comes, it's supposed to like bring them joy and happiness. So as far as like the white supremacist aspect, I'll just say no. I don't think you have to be necessarily white to be a white supremacist. Because Solomon Henderson was most certainly black, but was definitely citing things from white supremacists and like using a lot of that language. I think that this is just like, you know, these groups who have these ideas and these goals and are radicalizing children. If that makes sense, like that's pretty much essentially what's happening. That's who they're recruiting.
You're a fascinating cat, Saint.
So
this is crazy shit.
So Saint, I'm watching Curtis's video. Thank you, Curtis. Curtis put a video in the chat for you. Those of you that want to watch the shooter's video from Minnesota, it's eye-opening. Be cautious that you're not watching it in a place that, like at work or something like that, or around your kids, and don't stream it to your TVs and be dumb about it. It's disturbing. It's actually something that I would be terrified of, and if I'm scared of it, you should probably be a little bit afraid of it. I'm blown away. I did not know this. I think this is a hate group. It could be white supremacy. Fuck them. I don't really care what clan they want to call themselves by. I don't really give a shit if they have Casper conventions and Target bedsheet sales. I don't give a damn. I'm just fascinated that I never knew about this till today. And everything you said, saying I'm cross-referencing and checking, and it seems to be accurate what you're saying. So I can't say this is just some sort of conspiracy theory or some kind of rabbit hole. I would never condone this. This is not something in my wheelhouse. I'm actually kind of disgusted that this has not been brought up a little bit more and been more precisely correlated, especially when after the incidents you cited. I have an issue with this. I have another issue, like as I'm diving through, I can see why people would have been chosen to ignore this, because I'm watching this. The Young Turks, they're doing, the neo-Nazi lady with a trans man on, Benjamin Carollo, talking about how dangerous this woman was because she's the voice of Telegram, but then finding out she's later discharged of it, and she wasn't connected to it, but they were like going on because she was blonde hair, and they went down this race thing. I'm like, I don't know. I can see why people like just don't pay attention to the stuff that we should be talking about. This should be something that we know about. This should be something everybody knows about it, especially parents with your kids online. I'm massively confused why we don't.
Yeah, I want to leave, so I just want to say quickly before I go. Yeah, so I came in here. I didn't see any rooms like talking about it, but I, again, I work with the Bureau, the BCA, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and so like basically what I'm like sending are just like public links that I found because I just literally went back to work 3 days ago. No, yeah, yesterday was Wednesday for me. And like literally like emails hopped in and then this happened yesterday. And so these are like just the immediate things that like my research brought me to that are public. The information I'm sharing to you is like public stuff that I can like actually give people that I just think is important because it's something that the news is obviously like not informing people on. And they're targeting kids. A lot of these groups, sexploitation. It's not anything in reference to gender or there's boys and girls. It's not anything in reference to political ideologies. As you see, when you pay attention to the Minnesota one, for example, it doesn't make any sense. A lot of people would be like, okay, this is a trans person on the left, but the person's like citing this Republican guy, but at the same time, it's kill Trump. Like these aren't anything that I would say are like held by any defined lines outside of these people specifically like reference their hatred of humanity and humankind, and they are enjoying the concept of getting notoriety from killing people in their early 20s. They're in their teens. They're 16 years old to like it's important for people to kind of just be aware, especially if you have kids who you know what I mean, are on video games or who you're hearing referencing like specific stuff. Parents are getting charged now for Samantha Rucknow's dad got charged. The one from Madison, Wisconsin. I think that may have been the first one. As they should, right? Because now who's about to tell these, for instance, yesterday, 20 people or 17 kids injured, 2 dead. Like, people are looking for somebody to fall. Like, what do we do? So,
would you mind?
Facts are important.
Would you mind like reaching out to KK? She wants to definitely. I do too. I think everybody that normally hangs around it, we find things that we don't know a lot about, and we want to do something more informative. I would love it very much if you would come to another one of our rooms. We'll do this on domestic terror or whatever label we come up with, and we can sit down and really truly interview you when you have more time. We can do it on a weekend. But if you could reach out to KK or myself, I would love to sit down and just have this like really in depth, a little bit more information, and we can put up. KK's got Spirit Fingers. She does this like whole power board where she's got all the links, and she does her whole thing. And we got like a psychologist, we've got teachers, we've got police, we've got military personnel and others. I would love to have you kind of help us walk through this and kind of be able to see this. I really, truly am genuinely being sincere about this. I'm not trying to be troll. I don't give a shit about cloud. I don't care if there's 5 people in the room. I'm just genuinely very curious about this, and I promise I will do as much research as I can before you come in, so I don't come in completely dumb and you're trying to baby walk me or spoon feed me everything, but that we can get to the guts and the meat of the substance right away if you'd be willing.
I think it's like a new era of terror that most parents are not aware of, that our children are exposed to, that we need to really understand. Just like parents are not used to or aware of, these new types of drugs per se. It could be laying right there on the counter and you would not even know that. It could be something potentially dangerous for your kids. So just even that knowledge will be good. So yes, I'm the same. I will definitely, we follow each other now. If you can send me some information and I'll work with you, we'll figure out a schedule, but this is great information. Brad, can you do a quick reset, please, since I'm sure your crock pot is about to explode?
Oh yeah, that broke already. It's now,
I'm
it went
not
from
surprised.
ER, and now it's broken. So I'm just going to throw it in the oven and we're going to try this thing. I put it at 475, hoping it'll cook fast.
I hope.
You do not cook lamb at that temperature, for crying out loud. Bradley, that's it. I'm going to have to fly down and cook you 2 weeks of food at a time. Dear
I think
God.
you need a Brad cooking insurance to help your appliances in your house.
Brad needs life insurance.
I think
Brad needs insurance. He needs to put himself in a bubble, like a self-protective bubble.
I guarantee outdoor. Occupancy coverage is up to.
So is it mutton or is it lamb?
It's lamb. I didn't shoot this one.
Okay, so it's not mutton. All right.
Brad,
Well, you're
Did you say this one?
Brad, why are you cooking lamb in a crock pot? First of all, did you marinate your lamb before you even put it in the
Mrs. Clark, baby, I tried this with him.
He
No,
doesn't
ma'am.
know what marinate means.
Okay, are you
There is no butter. There is no rosemary. There is no garlic.
Brad,
There
what
is
the
no salt or
fuck? I
pepper.
know you're white, but you can't be that type
He's
of
the
white.
middle-aged white dude. Did we expect anything
I was gonna say that too, but I didn't want to go there.
Brad, I
But
know
I'm
you
glad
got
you said
some
that.
Worcestershire sauce,
Alright, Mrs.
some
Clark,
mustard, and soy sauce.
if I heard him right, he's actually in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota. I'll give him a little credit. They really don't know the places up there.
No. Brad's not there.
I know.
But Brad is certified outdoor, so he's an outdoor cat kind of a person. Indoor, he doesn't know how to do things, and he needs a special insurance to protect him.
Brad, go grab a local cedar tree and grab some cedar sprigs and add that.
Are you trying to stew this lamb meat?
No, I tried to make this shepherd's pie thingy. I got the peas. I threw the meat in there. I threw the potatoes in there, and then I threw the peas on it, and I was supposed to cook it. And it says it says easy recipe. You don't even have to peel the potatoes. You can just throw them in there.
Did you wash the potatoes before you cut them and put them in there?
You're supposed to cut them?
You're supposed to wash them.
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, Brad. Oh my God, Brad.
So, yeah, and then the crock pot says error on it, and I don't know what I fucking did wrong. And then now it's just a blank screen. And
Did you have any liquid inside of the bottom of this crock pot?
No, that was the first. That was the other one.
Okay, it was probably erroring because it got too hot, and that's the only reason why the crock pot will error. So if there wasn't any water inside of the crock pot or liquid, it will do that.
I think I put any in there. I did it on the first one. I did it on that
You guys
other
have
one.
crock pots with displays on them?
Okay, we can have Brad's cooking school.
Mine has just a knob.
Can you reset the room, Brad, without your lack of cooking skills? So we have some new people on stage that may want to speak on the actual subject.
All right. So pull your headphones away from your ear. Turn down your volume. For it, she's going to get it, and hopefully you can hear me. Marshall, can you hear me? JK?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Political Compass, your one-stop shop for news and things going on in the world, where we have discussions and we learn things. We actually have back and forth discussions. We value all opinions from all across the aisles and every topic that is brought up on our stage. However, you must stand firm. You must be tough. You must validate your opinion. And don't be afraid of criticism. We actually want to have a back and forth with you. This is a biased conservative house. I make no qualms about that. I hide nothing from it. But I do welcome all differing political opinions. We do not discriminate based on race, gender, or fucking sky daddy issues. I don't care about any of them. All faiths are welcome. All races are welcome. All sexes, particularly those of women, are definitely welcome. We care about what's going on in the world. We want to cover the news. No, not everything Trump does is perfect. I still think he's better than Kamala. I still think he's better than the Democrats' plan going forward right now. And with that being said, make sure you listen to the mods. There's two queens in the house. That is KK and Patricia. If either one of them does not like you, you have problems. I can't save you. Don't back channel me. Marshall is our historian, our legislative genius. He will sit there and call out us if we go astray or get some facts wrong. He's our information highway. We learn from everybody. I'm fascinated today. Today's topic was on the Minnesota shooter. Today, and of course, the Scotland Queen Mary of Scots, the Scottish girl in her axe and knife. If you haven't found that one up, Google Scottish girl with axe, and you will find an entire fascinating thread. I just loved all the memes. But with this, we also learned today about Paragram, and something I was not really formally aware of. And I think we're going to have further room. So please follow the club, follow speakers, people you like, and come back. We try to do this about 1 to 4 every day, or at least in between, and usually on weekdays. But we're going to do an expose on this. We're going to deep dive in this. So we're going to gather some information. We're really going to try to provide some information to people and maybe draw a big crowd so people can be aware of what's going on, what this is about, so that you can protect your kids. That's the overall goal. Some of us have to actually stand up and protect the world. With that said, carry away. Do whatever where this new discussion wants to go, KK. I don't know where we're at right now. I'm just still fascinated and floored and still trying to figure out this fucking thing.
Okay, so this topic can go several different directions. One direction we were discussing earlier before we went down this Telegram conversation is, what is if there is a singular factor to determine who could be a potential shooter per se. We were talking about race, we were talking about gender, we were talking about the trans community switching from one to another. We had some stats given. If you're just joined the room, you can scroll up and everyone gave some interesting stats. So if the stage is popcorn style, please allow those who have newly joined the stage to speak first. And then I'm going to mute up, and I just want to get your thoughts on what you think of the Minnesota shooter, what you know about that shooter, and if there's any defining factors that you feel like could have prevented all of this going on.
Yeah, so I'll put in my first thoughts, being that I'm probably the one on the stage that's the most recent out of the K through 12 system, so I probably know the most about it, at least in recent times.
That's just because you're 12.
Yeah, it's fucking dumb. Like, I'm so sorry, but all the drills and all the safety preparations that we do, I mean, if you guys read statistics earlier, I'm hoping that one of them that was read is that the majority of the school shooters don't come from outside the school, they come from inside. It's the students that end up doing it. So, for example, when we go through all these like dumbass school shooting drills that we have to go through 24/7, quite literally all we're doing is just giving the game plan away to the shooter. That's all it is. It's, hey, the shooter's going to come from one of you guys, and one of you guys apparently who's smart enough to operate a fucking gun and have a whole detailed plan out of how you're going to kill people is going to be too stupid to realize that when the classroom lights are off, that it means that people aren't in there. That's what all of a sudden that's what it means. Not that it's fucking off and everyone's huddled up in the back like a giant firing target to spray and pray in the back of the classroom corner. Or here's all the exit routes. Guess what? Now the shooter knows the exit routes too, so he knows exactly where to take you out from there as well. And like that's a big factor. I think that whenever people go into these safety discussions, or they go into even more things, like for example, arming teachers and all that bullshit that they want to go through there, even though statistically we can add on more, how adding guns to the situation doesn't necessarily make it more safe, especially when those teachers or the people that are armed civilians don't have training in high pressure situations, don't have military training, don't have police training, and even some of the police, when they do have training, choose still to not do anything. We saw that during Uvalde. So like, there's a ton of things where we see people with training and without with guns that even when they're present at the situation, I'm pretty sure from 1982 to 2012, out of all the mass shootings that happened there, less than 1% of them were stopped by somebody who had a firearm on them as well during that time. So do I know what the solution is? No. But do I know what one of the solutions isn't? It's adding guns. That's not a solution. And thoughts and prayers haven't fucking worked for the last 30 years in a row. So that one's not doing anything either. What needs to happen, at least in my opinion, America needs to start caring more about children than they do about their gun culture. The moment that we stop caring about gun culture more than we care about the lives of people, or we care more about people than the right to have a tool that lets us play God, then maybe we'd be okay.
I do have a question.
That tool doesn't let them play God though, because you can't create that with a gun.
You sound like they're taking
I hear a lot. I hear a lot of people talking about gun control and different things like that, and it makes me really wonder, like, if we actually got off into the weeds about gun control, what type of gun control would you want? Like, what type of laws would you want to see implemented that you feel like would make a difference in this case?
Yeah, sure. I don't want anybody, and call it ableist, I'll double down on it. I'll stand on it. I don't give a fuck. Anybody with some type of mental disorder, get the fuck away from a gun. You don't need one. If I can't have the mental disorder going into the military in order to do so, you can't have one to own a fucking gun as a civilian. I'm okay. If the military can realize that, so can like regular civilians. I don't think that's a huge fucking step to take. On top of that, when it comes to what's called evaluations, et cetera, I think that people should have to renew their gun licenses. I think that people should have to renew their psychological tests. Because, for example, one person may be okay mentally to handle a firearm during 1 year. In 5 years' time, something crazy could fucking happen to them where they develop something where they're no longer able to do so, right? So I believe in the same way that people have to get licenses renewed for multiple different things, so should gun licenses, and so should the test to see if you're mentally fit to carry a gun as well. That would be one of the most basic ones that would end up curbing a lot of shit that we have to deal with right now. Call it ableist all you want, I'll stand on it because it's safe.
No, I agree with you. I think a lot of people have been saying that in order for people to buy certain rifles, certain pistols, I know depending on where you live now, you have to have a pistol permit and different things like that. So there are states that have licenses in order for you to own, in order for you to conceal carry, and do different things like that. I think like even in certain states, if you're under a certain age and you decide to buy a pistol, you have to have a pistol permit, which you go to your local sheriff department. And yeah, you can't, in certain states, you can't even buy one unless you're 21.
Yeah,
right?
this county required a pistol permit.
I'm sorry, Marshall, what did you say?
This county required a pistol permit of the shooting. The county specifically requires a pistol permit.
I think.
Yeah, so, and then too, for the, I think the bigger part here, and I agree with you, is the mental. And this is where it kind of gets tricky. You're going to.
Is it just me, or is she matrixing right now?
Yeah, you're matrixing.
Can you hear me right now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes.
Right now, yeah.
Okay. So unless, and I agree with you, this is going to be one of those things where unless the state or the federal government puts something in place for people to take a mental test to ensure that they're capable of carrying, that's going to be the tricky part. Because that's the reason why earlier, and I don't know if you were here, I asked the question of when he went to get his gun, because as far as I know, if you have any type of mental disorder on record, you cannot purchase a gun.
Correct. It's already illegal under federal law.
Yes, and in this case, he was not seeing a doctor. He was not going to someone that would have been able to say, hey, surprise, surprise, this person's mentally unstable. Let's make it to where they can't get a gun. Like, I heard people saying he was struggling with his sexuality, but even though he was struggling with his sexuality, that's not cause, unless we're going to make it law and cause to say, if you're a person who struggles with your sexuality and jumping between if you want to be trans or not, you have to go to a medical professional and then get that documented and then, put that in a way where you're no longer able to access guns. That's one thing. So I do, that type of mental test is going to be a hard one to get past, because now the question becomes, who do you deem mentally stable and who you don't deem mentally stable?
It's not just that. It would fit the definition of an undue burden. Now, there's already an existing federal law in the books which allows the federal government to argue, right, if you're schizophrenic and it's on record, right, like, you can't go buy a gun in most states.
Also, if you have a history of DV, you can't buy a gun too.
Right, but I'm not necessarily speaking on this, like, history that's already been there. I'm speaking more of, like, you need a test on site in order to get that. Not like oh, bring your medical history, et cetera. As
no.
Before you need to go get assessed before going ahead and.
Yeah, no. One of the problems is that the court calls stuff like that an undue burden. There's a balancing test the court does with rights, and one of those tests is a reasonable person undue burden test, right? And the question is it an undue burden to have to take a mental test to be able to access a right? That is the question the court would consider. Given that it's more conservative, it might side conservative, but that would be the essential question at hand.
I understand that, but then the opposing question from the moral perspective, at least to me, goes, where's the undue burden of the amount of people dying every single day, especially children, from this shit?
Well, that's a different argument. Marshall, I thought in this thought experiment, we were, I don't, and I could be wrong, I thought we were not using the Second Amendment as our like measuring stick, right? Because I'm sure in all his proposals, mine included, we would abolish the Second Amendment, and gun ownership would be a privilege, not a right. Certainly under the framework of the Second Amendment, there are a gazillion hurdles.
Well, if you can get it passed, like, I'm not gonna, like, if there's a campaign waged to change the constitutional amendment and I'm on the losing side, I'm not gonna bitch about that. Like, I just don't. You fight a hard campaign for what you believe, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So I wouldn't exactly be that way. More what I meant was, we either think all the constitutional rights matter, or we think none of the constitutional rights matter. The important part about rights is that they can be limited. The Heller test in 2008 said limited or fundamental but not unlimited. And the most recent, the Bruin test, rewrote the standard from the 1790s to like the 1920s or something. Well, I say all of that to say that it is a constitutional right in that way, and that we can't.
I mean, is it a right?
We can't brush the listed right to the side simply because we don't necessarily like it. The right exists. The right passage is what you hold on. The right passage is what you propose, which is a constitutional amendment. That's completely within line of the system. Like how you're supposed to actually do that, right? Like there's an amendment process, and like I said, if we change the amendment in a perfect world and I'm on the losing side, I'm not going to complain about it. Fair's fair.
I think once the boomers lose power.
Sorry.
I think once the boomers and I'm aware of how the amendment process works, and I don't disagree with you, Marshall. I'm a gun owner, but I'm very much anti-Second Amendment because I think that the floor is so low for gun ownership in this country, and too many idiots have guns, and they're making the responsible people look like they're endorsing the idiocy, and sometimes the responsible.
I know that. There's a guy, Mr. Finley.
Hold on, Marshall. Let Finley finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And sometimes the gun owners do endorse the idiocy because the fear is the slippery slope fear, and I think that's where we get it wrong. This idea that if you do this, then they're going to do that and that and that and that and that. And certainly, and we've seen this with gun rights. Certainly, there's a point in which you can put the brakes on this imaginary slippery slope, and that is a big problem because again, even a lot of law enforcement folks will agree there are certain things that are quote unquote common sense that we can do that's pushed back against. And one of those things is like the handcuffing of the ATF to freaking get the guns out of the hands of the idiots. Like we handcuffed them from doing that because we fear the government overreach. And I think that in and of itself is kind of.
Okay, if I can jump in and
wait, hold on, Mrs. Clark. I'm going to let Marshall go because you wanted to respond to that, and then I'm just going to interject for one sentence. And then I'm going to hand it right to you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Clark, you can go first.
Wait, I thought he's going to say something.
All right, so we'll do this. I want you guys to think on this. I am not saying that there is a gun problem. I'm not saying XG may have where did he go? Oh, he's still there. I'm not saying he may have some sense to his argument. I'm saying listen to his argument. Also, for those that are pro 2A, like who own multiple firearms, like I do, I want you to recognize this moment. Because once you give up a right to the government, you no longer get that back. You will never get that back. It's like asking the government to start a program and thinking they will end it. So be cautious about your wish to end, modify, or do things and fiddle around with laws and constitutions and giving that power to the government and saying, here, let me turn this back. But go ahead, Mrs. Clark, please offer your...
Yes, and for me sitting up here as an avid gun owner myself, when I think about turning gun rights into, like, gun ownership into a privilege, you now have an exclusionary. And with that exclusionary, who gets to decide who gets to own guns and who doesn't? Why, what, where? Because even when we talk about gun laws, and both me and my husband have been sitting up here in a vehicle talking about it, I remember most of the gun laws that even exist today realistically were in play to limit black people. I encourage everybody here to go watch the documentary on the Black Panthers or read Negroes with Guns. Heavily after slavery, black people were like, hey, we have the right to take up arms. We have the right to exercise the Second Amendment. And we did so heavily with guns and different things like that to defend our towns. That's when gun laws started coming out saying who and who can't own a gun, why you can't own a gun, when can you carry a gun, stipulations to carry a gun. Even when we go back to the Black Panther era, when black people started policing our own neighborhoods, crime and stuff went down, but you also had the altercations where other people felt some type of way about seeing a militarized group of black people carrying guns. So what did you see in California? A lot of heavy legislation started coming about who can carry guns, when can you carry guns, and so on and so forth. So when I think of people taking gun rights, which, I'm sorry, me as a black person has understandably, historically understood how guns have played a role in our community in protecting ourselves and different things like that, and what it looks like to be on the end of exclusionary practices where, hey, you know, Johnny down the street, he can go buy 27 damn rifles, but, you know, Tyrell here can't even get one. I can't get behind it. Even when I grew up in California, me and my family, we had, and for those of you who know, we were ranch hands in California before Paris and stuff was urbanized. I distinctly remember my grandmother and my grandfather going through shit because they would be outside shooting coyotes and other animals to protect the cattle, and they would have the authorities come out because they heard gunshots, and the idea that black people had guns was just throwing the police officers off. They were just so like, well, why do you have it? Why do you need it? Why do you this? Why do you that? And I distinctly remember my papa telling one guy, I don't ever remember you talking to so-and-so asking them these questions about why they shoot their guns. So why are you asking me? I told you I'm shooting coyotes. What's the next issue? So when it comes, I'm going to reinstate this. When it comes to exclusionary practices, that's a very tricky road, especially here in the United States, about who gets access to certain things and who doesn't. As a black person, I'm sorry, I can't get behind exclusionary practices because I understand how they disproportionately disenfranchise certain groups of people.
And even to what, like, Brad was saying, I mean, like, you know, once you give that right away, that, like, it's never gonna come back. Like, once you allow the government to do something, they don't go backwards. Like, look at it, truly reverse alcohol that they made.
Look at the building of the presidency. Alcohol. The president has become ever more powerful over 250 years.
Yeah, and let Mr. Clark finish, and I'll respond to the alcohol comment.
And shit like that. Like, even to, I think it was Finley talking about the ATF, about, like, people handcuffing the ATF to stop it. I'm like, the ATF is fucking, like, the ATF be on bullshit. They making up rules because they feel like it that are not laws, making people felons because they just woke up on the wrong side of bed today. Like, like, people, that's why people don't like the ATF. If they was actually doing what their fucking job was, nobody would have an issue. But they come up with bullshit rulings out of no laws and just go fucking with people. Like, they pulling up at people's houses like, let me see all your guns. Like, for what? Why? That's not your job. Like, do your job. Why are you over here creating new rules that nobody voted for it? Like, come on now. Like, and then too, even when it comes to the Second Amendment, it's there for a reason. Without the second, what guarantee you gonna have a first? What guarantee you gonna have a 13th, the 14th, the 4th, whatever amendment? Like, there's no guarantee you can have any rights at all without the second. That's the whole purpose of it.
So can I say something to that?
I got that. Yeah. So Finley, you brought up to Mr. Park's point of the prohibition era. You should. One of the key things, I hear this a lot when we have these discussions. Look up what the rules and regulations were for alcohol and distribution in the breweries and the number of breweries and all that stuff, and how their taxation was actually what was probably the most beneficial to our economy. Then prohibition happened. Then they lost substantial income, like massively crime went up and all this stuff. And then they said, hey, we lost a significant, we're going bankrupt, and people are still fucking drinking anyway. Now all of a sudden they bring back prohibition, but they regulate the hell out of it, and they do a lot of different things. Like, you should actually go see what goes on in terms of the alcohol authority and what they allow, who oversees it, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. You know, that three-letter agency, that ATF that makes up rules. See what they do for alcohol and the tobacco. Same thing occurred in tobacco. You know you can't grow a tobacco plant in your backyard thanks to our federal government. They took away your right to do so. Only 3 states allow you to grow, I think it's 4 plants in your backyard for personal consumption. When before, you could actually just grow tobacco in your backyard. You technically can't anymore. You cannot have your own still in your house. Like all those little beer makers and portable at home, like the distilleries and stuff. You can't. You have to make sure you're within the regulations of your state and your county, and that you pay the associated stamp or tax or tariff in order to produce them. So these things, like, yes, what I'm saying is once you give up that right and you say the government come in and fix it, I'm not with XG on this one. I understand it, but I have a hard time blaming the tool. I have more of an issue with the person, and I don't think just ending and banning guns is going to be a solution that works. I don't see it, because we're watching other struggles occur, and what we'll go down to is we're now talking about knives, and those are going to get banned, and then we'll ban those like they're doing in Europe and Scotland, and we'll see that progression going.
So again, I understand that, and again, I'm not against regulation. I'm the last person to talk about regulation, because I'm not definitely for regulation. I work in the most regulated industry in the world, but so I'm not against regulation. I think we're pretty safe. And if we had regulation, but we can't do it because of the Second Amendment. I'm not against owning guns. I'm against idiots owning guns, and that's not dealing with the idiots. That's my problem. But the problem is, because of such lax regulations, and the fact that even though, like, town A, and again, let's use Chicago example. Chicago has very strict gun rules, right? Very strict. But 15 minutes across the border in Hammond, Indiana, person-to-person gun sales are totally legal without a background check. So if I were a bad actor, I can just legally go across and not deal with Chicago stuff. We'll go across the border, or I can go north, 90 minutes north of freaking Wisconsin. Same thing, very lax rules. That's another problem that we have with gun rules in this country.
The moment you cross that border, you might have committed a felony.
Nope, not a felony. So you can. Show me the law that says I can't go in Indiana and buy a gun. Person sale.
You can't.
Okay, but that's my point. That's my greater point. I'm not against regulation.
But I live in Illinois. Even if I wanted to go buy a gun from a gun store in Indiana, I can't even pick the gun up in Indiana. They have to ship it over the border to a local gun store where I pick it up at.
No, I said person to person, not licensed dealer, person to person.
No, people do it illegally, but it's not legal. I mean, it definitely is a problem. Hold on, let me finish.
The last time I bought person to person.
It definitely is a.
What you're describing is exactly what I had to do. I bought person to person. Thank you. Please continue.
Can you let Kima finish? I think his audio was a little bit fuzzy and you talked over him. Hey, Kima, can you go ahead and finish?
Only if you guys hear me, but come outside, it's a little windy. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. Now, it's definitely a problem with guns coming from Indiana, but it's not people from Chicago going to buy the guns legally. It's people in Indiana buying the guns, because all you need is a driver license to buy a gun in Indiana. Then they are bringing the guns to Chicago, selling the guns. So it's not the way you describe it. It's not legal to just go buy a gun and bring it to Illinois. Like someone said, that's a federal crime. But not saying you can't do it, because what's odds of you getting caught? but that's not the normal way it's happening. And like I said, it's definitely not illegal.
Now, can I say something to the point about the government? So I know, like, of course, there's a gun conversation that always comes up. Like, I don't really understand what the point is there. Like, what can you do against the government right now? Like, the government can still, I mean, from my perspective, I guess a more left perspective, I think the government violates people all the time, right? Police, like, they can pull you over, practically do anything to you, and what can you do back? Like, you, as it stands now, like, you're already living in a country where the government can do whatever they want to you. So I don't understand the pushback on that. Like, is there going to be some, like, ultimate day of a showdown where now you're going to have to use your gun to protect yourself against the government or something? Like, I don't understand what the pushback is on that. Like, it's just a matter of just, like, having a more sane and safe society and doing it in a way where, yes, you get to keep your guns and also keep it out of the hands of people that shouldn't have it. Like, I don't think it's a right for people who intend to kill people unjustly to have guns. Like, certain people should not have guns. Like, that's not how it has to be. Like, it can't be like, well, it's a human right, so everybody should have it. As like a foregone conclusion.
So Cedric, I'm gonna give you I encourage you to look this up, and it's no like source. Like I said, I'll welcome all sides, and I have my side, and I could be wrong. However, I'm gonna have you look up the Battle of Athens, not the one in Greece. I'm talking about the Athens, Tennessee, where a group of civilians, particularly veterans, were pissed off about the oppression of civil rights, the oppression of voters, and Democrats holding a demagoguery, and those civilians waged war in the town. They went shot into the point where the governor was like sending out the National Guard, going, "What's going on here?" And these veterans pushed back. The multiple, and not just veterans, but the civilian population, because they were armed, pushed back and drove away these crooked politicians that were doing a lot of BS. It's a really fascinating tale in the U.S. And there's many other stories that are kind of similar like this. The bonus pay revolution is another one for World War I vets. You should look at that one. That's another time when Americans have taken arms and kind of pushed back against the government and sought to seek refuge, and actually have won in some of these cases. So it's not just like, they couldn't defy it. They did. But furthermore, people often leave this up because they're urban or suburban centric on their view. Yes, the majority of people live in very close-knit urban populations, and I agree with you. This is probably a source of problems. However, people forget the giant landmass that is the United States, and they forget that there's not only two-legged predators, but oftentimes there's not help out in the rural areas. Like, help is not coming within 5 minutes. It's a half hour to an hour. Yeah, you're on your own, and you have to defend yourself against four-legged critters, as well as the two-legged kind that come out there and say, "Hey, we're gonna mess around here because guess what? I can do this and know that I can get away before the police even come to the area to start their investigation."
With all due respect, then how does Australia survive that?
Australia really doesn't. If you actually go into the bush, Australia manipulates its numbers and manipulates it, but they have no problem glossing over the fact that they just like to murder fucking indigenous tribal people, black people in that region.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. I'll call them out on that all day. What they do to the Aboriginals is terrible, but at the same time, the argument is fighting against the wildlife. The Australians have had guns banned since '94, and they've survived the outback for I don't know how long now.
But they also give carve-outs only to certain people, like what Mr. Clark.
Yeah, like my buddy Harry, Brad. My buddy Harry's got that, and he has to keep the gun and the bullets in separate safes. Which just to me, doesn't make any sense. Like, what fucking use is a gun if it doesn't have any bullets in it? So there was a question posed about, essentially, what do a bunch of hits with AR-15s and lever-action rifles going to do to the federal government? Prescient's answer is consider Afghanistan. Those people were largely supplied with small arms, a few stingers they were able to keep from the Soviet-Afghan War, the 1980s, and IEDs. And I managed to hold off one of the largest military invasions in its history for about 20 years, right? Like, it's not that you can't do it. A lot of people will probably die if that ever came to it, but it is possible. Also,
Marshall. Granted, the terrain. You can correct me if I'm incorrect on this, but the terrain is definitely a factor there, Marshall. It's not just the fact that they have
one of the biggest factors. Same thing with the jungle.
The terrain.
Same thing in Vietnam. It was a terrain.
Yeah, it had a lot to do with the terrain. Like, I'm just gonna say, like, where I live and when I go to the ranch, I'm like 40 minutes away from police help. And if I'm gonna go walking around on my land, I take a pistol or a rifle. I take a pistol and a rifle. A pistol in case I run into rattlesnakes, and a rifle in case I run into packs of hogs. Like, they're invasive species in Texas, and they really are little destructive critters. And so that's like a common thing. I also, at least for my money, I think suburbs and rural areas view guns a little differently. I'm going to use Dallas as an example. Dallas is full of a bunch of hoity-toity people, but people my grandmother called dime store cowboys. The folks who get the gun and got to put it on their hip, and it's an appendage, and it's so cool, look at me. Versus rural areas, like where Brad's from and where I'm from, where if I'm looking in my safe and I need to go kill a nil guy and the hog, I need 2 different weapons for that. A nil guy needs 308, and they're invasive species here too. And like to take a hog, I need a 223. And they're viewed more as tools, like a shovel or a rake. I realize that's not exactly like a one-to-one comparison, but that's, at least where I live in Texas, that's the thing I've noticed is like one of the biggest differences between gun owners in big cities and gun owners that live in rural areas. Right? Like it's primarily one views it as an appendage and the other views it as a shovel or like a pick.
I know you spoke to my point, and this is and this kind of gets to the hard part, because don't get me wrong, I agree with y'all when we say certain people shouldn't have guns, right? Certain people, or the crazies, or the idiots, right? But this still goes back to how do you determine who is the idiot and who is crazy, right? Because even me sitting up here, I can sit here and look down the road at Jim Bob, who sits there and chews cud and cuts and spits, and he talks with a real deep Southern Creole accent, and I know he can't read. Does he lose his access to guns? Try on the other pants. Is he now an idiot and has the right to not carry his gun, even though he's living out in the woods where the boars, bears, and possums and stuff are? This once again goes back to who is determining who's the idiot, who's crazy, and who doesn't have the right. Because, like I said, we can sit here and talk all day about certain people not having guns, but who are the people that get to determine what those people are, what they look like, how they speak, and how they look? And I have yet to get an answer.
I got an answer. So, if you had regulations, right? Billy Bob, I grew up in rural America, and we had a rifle, right, for critters, right, that we rarely used. So you could classify certain weapons, right, for certain usage, right? So, for example, I am pro people owning guns to protect their houses. I am pro that, because again, lived in the middle of nowhere, well, not really middle of nowhere, but you get what I'm saying. Right? Rifles are a thing, right? Especially being in the rural South when racism was a thing and white people were really crazy and they, you know what I'm saying, they would nuck if you buck. You needed a rifle to fend yourself off from crazy bastards, right? The racism, right? And so I'm for that, right? But as a law enforcement professional, I do not like handguns in urban areas. I don't care who's carrying them. I hated them. Hated. Because at any given moment, all I needed was one idiot, right? Thank God it never happened. That's all I needed. And that's all I thought about when my city encouraged concealed carry and changed the rules and then did open carry, right? That's what I thought about. So you can definitely have regulations saying that For this situation, that, this situation, that. And you can do licensing, right, and renewals. Like, this is what regulation looks like, right? As a pilot, not all pilots can fly my plane. You gotta have a certain type of licensure to fly my plane, right? But any private pilot can fly a single engine auto jumper, right? It's called regulation. No, it sounds a bad word, but it's my favorite.
Yeah, can I answer? I think we already have identified which people we think are crazy. Like, for any kind of regulation, you can always ask this question, like, who gets to decide? Like, I feel like it's a bit of an empty question. Like, it seems legitimate, but it's like then we don't have any kind of regulation for anything because, well, somebody will be deciding and they have a bias, or whatever it is. Pertaining to this conversation, I think I don't really see where that bias would be. Especially if you're worried about like a racial bias. Of course, I think that can always play into everything because I think racist people inject their racist bias into everything, right? That their lives are involved in. So if you have a racist person involved in the decision making, then yeah, I think they might inject something into that. But if we focus on the type of profile that we're discussing in this conversation, like someone that glorifies violence, thinks chaotic violence is a good thing. Anyone that's showing any signs of that online and expressing those kind of things, maybe we'll try to have other processes added to it where they take a deeper look into the individual. But someone like that, and they start taking actual actions towards obtaining weapons, and they seem completely serious about this way of thinking that using these type of weapons to kill people is a good thing, or it's something that is like some kind of amusement or something. I think it's fine. It might not sound totally solid, but every single one of these people that do end up killing a bunch of people with guns do tend to like express some of these or show some of these signs of expressing these kind of ideas. So I think that should be like at least one way of like targeting the kinds of people that shouldn't have.
So you're saying that we need to go out and hire a completely new force that goes and skins through the social media of every single American, flags them and puts them on the list? Are there going to be something where they get a notification saying, hey, you shared this post about defending your home, and in the skit this person violently defended their home, but you were very much advocating for the violence against the person who broke in, so therefore we're going to put you on a list and ban you from purchasing a gun?
So you're totally like twisting what I just said. Like someone that's defending their home would not be crazy.
That's not what I said. I'm not talking about the person defending their home. I'm talking about, as he said, on social media, because there's been plenty of videos where I've seen men assaulting women on social media, and I said, couldn't be me, I'll blow a motherfucker away. So full of holes, I'll be able to use them as a sprinkler system. Does that mean that because I jumped that violence? Cedric, hold on, because I didn't interrupt you.
No, I'm just answering.
But I did not interrupt you. If I said online and I said could not be me because if somebody ran up on me in the middle of the night, I would blow them so full of holes that I'll be able to shove a sprinkler up their ass and use them to water my front lawn, does that mean that I should lose the right to carry my gun? Because I've expressed holy amounts of violence. I'm not going to be afraid to say it. Miss Clark get on this app and say every day, women don't argue with men, just click, boom. When they put their hands on you, click, boom. When they get in your face. Stop arguing when people tell them to back up, leave you alone, click, boom. Does that mean that I have the right to lose my gun rights? Because I openly express violence on this app towards people.
No, except for what you just said, like someone just speaking to you and then you're just gonna shoot them. I think that is kind of crazy. I don't think that's something that you're actually saying that you'd actually do something.
And if a man got violent with me in public, I'm just gonna shoot him. That.
Yeah, if we get violent with you,
that's just you coming up yelling at me, screaming at me, and doing those things. That's violence.
You would shoot somebody that can't yell and scream at you, Miss Lee?
Yeah, you can't shoot someone for yelling. Listen. I'm not saying. Look, I would say that necessarily rises rise to the level of someone being insane or sounding totally crazy. These are people that express a type of violence where they are initiating it, right? They're going after people that are just living their everyday, lives, right? It's not like any kind of a defensive sort of scenario or anything. So no, I'm not saying anything that can be twisted or misconstrued as, oh, you're a violent person, or you're in a violent. It should be. We have to be more. We have to be more specific.
On it, I'll help on this. The judgment's being made already. It's how law enforcement operates, and you have AI that's tracking social media. So what you just said, and if you say that kind of comment over and over, there are trigger words that are tracked and are flagged, and it gets flagged. And yeah, that's your future, and that's the future that's happening, and it's what law enforcement is using to try to catch terrorist threats or to try to catch where hate cells and problems permeate. And more they're relying on AI for things like chat rooms and social media. If you're posting something like that or you say something that's highly aggressive, it will get flagged. I mean, whether you like it or not, that's the future of how they are intelligence gathering. So just realize that. Also, I wanted to add to the conversation that not all these people necessarily show mental illness. And I put this in the chat. I mean, the worst shooting we've had in the United States, the biggest shooting, where over 500 people got shot and 58 people died, was not a guy that had any terrorist threats.
Was that Vegas?
No political agenda at all. The only thing that finally came out afterwards was that he had retreated somewhat from his girlfriend and his family, and he was at wealth, and he was using a lot of his money to play poker slots. I mean, that's about it. But not all of them are something you can catch in advance. No one would have had him on the radar, and he wasn't posting dangerous or hateful or aggressive statements online. But they are definitely looking for that now, and it's AI generated. It's how law enforcement tracks.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just basically agreeing with that point of view. That I wasn't necessarily saying that like it's gonna solve the whole problem, but you should at least start somewhere, right? You should at least make the effort to reduce these kind of things. And I think sometimes there are obvious signs that for some reason get ignored. Like I don't know why they don't stop some of these people from getting gun.
They just are going to go on the radar of law enforcement. That's just what's
going to happen. Yeah, and you should stop them when they proceed to act on it.
Yeah, there should be some sort of out there. They're also going to track people that threaten the government. I mean, again, it's trigger words. It's computers that find this, and their algorithms that
but they can't just track it, is what I'm saying. They need to act on it.
I've been trying to get in for a while. Abby, that sounds good. It just seems like we need a little bit more of a unified depository for the flags, or for the trigger words and the flags. It seems like they're a little bit compartmentalized, when it comes to school system, military.
I'll make you feel good about it, Holly. I'll tell you where it is. There's 79 fusion centers in the United States, and Google the word fusion center and read what they are. And they actually are tracking counterterrorism and tracking cyber issues. And the fusion centers are a combination of FBI, your local law enforcement, DHS. Sometimes they will bring in ATF. I mean, it's the whole point of the fusion centers happened after 9/11 when we realized that our intelligence gathering wasn't coordinated. So now there's these coordinated centers, and a lot of them in urban cities. But Google it and read about them. So is it perfect? Absolutely not. There's tracking also that's done, by private enterprises as well. I mean, the technology is there, guys. The technology is there, and it's tracking hate, it's tracking extremism, and hopefully it can track these horrible posts when it comes up and just put put it on the radar, but
So is there some way
if it makes you feel any better?
They used it during COVID as well. You have to remember, they used it during COVID as well.
Absolutely.
And that was across, so that's why the danger is like Meta, how much do they own? Right? How much can they muddle, tamper your voice?
Is there some way? Hold on, I'm not done. I wasn't done. Is there some way? Let me just ask two more questions, Abby. Is there some way to combine that with the whatever software or depository that the gun shops use to do the screening or to check people?
Well, that would
Can we make it so that
interesting, isn't it? That because that's ATF that really oversees that, but it's interesting. There probably is. Remember, everything is still within the confines of what our law is and what our surveillance rights are. And there's there's issues as to whether stuff gets collected outside of the government and then forwarded on as tips to the government. I mean, there's some of that happening as well, but the technology is definitely there to do it. That's a question you might have with your member of Congress or someone.
State senators, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, and then the last question I have for the room: does anyone know? Maybe it's not out there yet, but do we know how many minutes he was shooting for before he shot himself?
I don't know. I'll look it up right now for you.
Okay, I couldn't find it because the reason I ask is I'm always curious when these things happen. Like at what point? Because I saw somewhere where some parents, some fathers, supposedly were there, and that they blocked his access to get in, and I was a little confused about that. But I'm just wondering, like, was anyone at this school or at the church grounds carrying? Because my kids go to a small Christian private school, and there are individuals who work on site who always carry or have access quickly to guns, but you don't know who it is. They keep that a secret, but it's just hard for me to envision, like, how many clips was he able to get off? How many before nobody had a gun? Nobody was able to intervene with a gun. That's the part I'm curious.
Well, it's a couple things. Number one, it's been so long since I've been to church, a Catholic church, where this would have happened. Something tells me they might not even have anybody that's carrying. I could be wrong.
They wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, a Catholic church, I just wouldn't picture them allowing it. But then, two, he was firing from the outside, from, it's my understanding, a narrow opening. And I think it was so narrow that he couldn't even necessarily see who he was hitting. I guess that would...
I was just going to say, so there was reports this morning that he tried to go through the front door, but he was stopped by some adults, and that's the reason why he then walked on the sidewalk in the windows that you're speaking of, Pete. There's like those 4 single windows with really narrow openings. Those are the 4 that he went through. But yeah, that's what the reports were saying. He was stopped by the front door.
And to answer you, we put plate glass. We plate on the synagogues now. I mean, that's one of the things we've done nationally is we've plated our windows and our glass. And when we've retrofit our facilities exactly for this. So and it's very different. And I think you're going to see the Archdiocese make some significant changes. I actually was talking to someone where I live that they were meeting with Metro, where I am, to start changing exactly the protocol when people go into church. But for us, we have I can't go into synagogue without metal detectors, and there's definitely people that are there to protect. The significant amount of guards, and then private, plain clothes. But you're going to see that with more places of worship than you're used to seeing now.
And I was just going to say, like, even if somebody was...
Pete!
I don't know if it was made out of brick or what, but I mean, it didn't sound like you really, especially with the handgun, you'd have an opportunity to hit him from inside the church. It was just a really shitty situation overall.
I don't. Maybe someone can help me that is in gun speak. last time I held a gun, I cried. Sorry, I just did. But they said there were more than 100 shell casings found. So what does that mean? Is that a lot or little?
Fired 3 mags.
That's just like over three magazines.
Yeah, he fired 3 magazines if it was an AR. He may have got 3.5, maybe if it was over 100. It just depends on the number of the casings, and it depends on the number of weapons he had with him. So that's all that means.
He had 3 weapons. It says there was a rifle, and then there was a shotgun, 3 shotgun rounds, and then he also had a handgun, but a bullet got trapped and it jammed in the chamber.
So he stovepiped his handgun, which is a blessing because you can see that then that wasn't a proficient ability to clear that. That's usually just a slide and sweep back. And then you have your AR. It sounds like the AR platform was the one that was primarily used, and he went through 3 mags on that. Unless he had an extended mag, which generally
he did have one. He did have one.
Oh, he did.
What looked like he's holding it up as it had the writing on it. It looked like a 60-round magazine.
Then he did 2 mags.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to act cavalier about it. I'm very practical on it.
Holly, I'm scouring and I'm not seeing any update or information on how long he was actively shooting. Just the round.
Okay.
Stovepiping means that the round that's being ejected somehow gets locked in to the slide mechanism, and it will not trigger another round to be ratcheted in or slid into holding from the magazine on the pistol. So you just have like a shell casing that's jammed in there, and you have to sweep it back, and you have to pull it back, clear it, and sweep back with your hand. And then you'll slide it a couple times, and it's just following with the ejector. It happens with shitty ammo a lot of the times, and improper gas pressures that aren't able to do a full extraction of the shell from once it's been fired.
As far as 30 rounds, I mean, I could do that easily under a minute, well under a minute. If he just has like a mil-spec trigger, like a standard trigger, like you'd use in the military, I mean, that could have really quickly, like.
So you think it could have been minutes?
No, I would guess it didn't even last 2 minutes. I mean, you can fire rounds off really quickly. If you have some triggers they have a much lighter pull and travel. So you can rounds a lot quicker, but I'm just guessing he had just like a mil-spec, like a standard trigger, which you could easily do that between a minute or 2.
Not that it matters, right? Because the whole point is to inflict as much damage as you can in a small amount of time. And then when you can no longer, for whatever reason, off yourself, unalive yourself. But in that time, depending on the weapon that you have, it could be 1 minute, it could be 5 minutes. People are going to lose their lives quickly and horribly. So, it is what it is. But Abby, I was going to say that Palantir, part of their project, is to, they're going to aggregate data from every platform, whether it be social media or just any online web that can be traced to your IP, that can be traced back to you. And so their algorithms are going to do more than just look for keywords. They're also going to look for like patterns. Where have you said it? What type of social media do you use? Right? Where are you making these statements? Are you in a room that has? Because we know that there are whole quote unquote online communities that that hype each other up to do these mass shootings. The guy, the kid, the black kid who shot up his school, I think it was earlier this year or late last year, the one who called himself a Nazi, he was a part of a online chat group and, very much encouraged. What was that, Pennsylvania? I don't remember where it
King,
was.
I don't know if you were in here earlier. We discussed this. There's a whole new thing. We're not going to go down there because we spent a lot of time talking to that and getting. We actually have an, I guess I would say, quasi pseudo expert who actually works in his field. He's going to come back. He's going to get in touch with KK, and we're actually going to do like an expose and a deep dive. We're going to have. Where's my other guy? What's his name? Pete or whoever. He's going to come back, and we've got a couple other people that are going to go. It's called Telegram. I didn't know about this, but we're going to hold an expose on that and a deep dive in it. So I don't want to go too much back down this because we spent like a good hour having this guy explain the high level, and we're going to get more intricate as we go.
I can tell you, as somebody who's spoken with these people years ago, I just call them accelerationists. Most of them are neo-Nazis. Like, these guys are batshit fucking crazy. Like, we'll save it for the other room.
Yeah, I definitely, and if I can find one that is part of that group and bring them on, I definitely want to hear them. I want to interview them. I'm not afraid of them. Like, I would love to do a lot more to them. I promise I'll hug and cuddle them and call them George as I put them quietly to the great beyond. But I do want to interview them. I want to find out more. I'm curious as to why this only in January 13th of 2025 was given the designation of a terrorist group, and that we actually know who these people are and where they're hiding in 3 separate countries, where these leaders are, and we haven't done anything to extradite them. And both administrations, Biden and Trump, have recognized the fact that this group is very much a problem. So we're going to deep dive, King. Don't worry. Tune in, follow the room, people, and we're definitely going to have this expose. We'll be advertising it once I get some more notes together and KK does her spirit finger thing. We're going to get this going.
So there was another mass shooting, 1 dead, looks like 6 shot, the day before this in Minneapolis. It was in broad daylight, in the middle of the day. Suspected shooter fired approximately 30 rounds. Holy shit. Jeez. Just the day before.
But the ballistics, so it's not the same person, right?
No, I'm reading right now about the story. Police arrived at the scene, they found a man dead. I don't know.
Yeah, in Minnesota, I really just hats off. Minneapolis and St. Paul, it used to be beautiful. It was the St. Paul Winter Carnival was great. The Jazz and Blues Festival, one of the best I've ever been to. That's a shit show now. As somebody from Minnesota, I tell you, unless you're going up to Boundary Waters, Grand Marais, it's beautiful there. Split Rock, Goose Falls, 2 Harbors, Bemidji. Even then, I'd be careful around Bemidji. There's no reason to go to Minnesota. I mean, and it's a shame because it is literally so beautiful. You could go see Walnut Grove. Go ahead and go enjoy it. You'll be shocked at the culture that's there, which is all Hmong. Like literally mountain people who came down from Asia. The whole town is nothing but Hmong, and they celebrate Laura Ingalls as if she was like the founding saint of the Wild West and America itself. They put on pageants, they restore homes, they have artwork, and the food is fantastic, and they do a whole lot. But the whole town is Hmong. It's fascinating. You can go see Plum Creek. It's literally all in Minnesota. It's beautiful. The Mars Factory Spam Museum. It's all great. However, it's just since Jacob Fry and a lot of leftists and Waltz, I really haven't fostered that sense of community. When I first got there, it was all green, beautiful, and people tended to smile. There was problems. I'm not discounting it. Like the cops were assholes. Like I'm just going to say that, but. There was like I said, it's like people took pride in where they were from. They took pride in their parks. they really had a lot of gripes about how civic leaders needed to start cracking down on a lot of things. And then COVID happened, and those poor people, it was the loudest ones were the ones you wouldn't think. They were saying, please send in the cops, please stop this, please, please. And now it's a shell. And I've taken people up there to show them. One of the famous ones was Greg Sotelo off this app. And he came up and he went, this is horrifying. I've seen Minnesota. I've seen Minneapolis. He goes, it was 5 years ago. It did not look like this. It's a burnt hulk of what it was. And this is what you got. So if you go up north, or maybe go a little south and just go visit Walnut Grove and have fun.
But Brad, what does that have to do with mass shootings, though? Like Sandy Hook, I'm sure, was in a beautiful, well-off community, and many of these shootings are in well-off communities. Like, what does any of it have to do with it? Like, I don't believe that this is a problem that you have to be in a trailer park to experience. You can be on the upper rung of the socioeconomic ladder.
Where are the majority of these shootings happening?
What do you mean? Like,
what type of schools are these happening in? Because someone didn't pick this up. We went from white Christian nationalists.
What were Parkland? What type of schools?
What type of schools? Where are the schools located at? Are they urban schools?
We know that's no.
Okay. So why are there not mass school shootings in urban schools? They're easy targets.
They have security measures.
There you go. Bingo, there's start one. Well, they have security measures.
Right, but also there's shootings at Target. There's shootings at church. This shooting was a shooting inside of a church. I mean, it was at students who were a part of the schools, but don't forget about the synagogues. I think the last.
Okay, so now you're looping in everything. You just went from schools, and I told you where are the vast majority of the schools shooting. Wait, hold on, stop. Where are the vast majority of school shootings happening? They're happening in soft target-rich areas, such as suburban areas, because the PTA wants the look of a great school, but they don't want to spend money on security measures. They'd rather spend $150 on a new high school football stadium than give the kids band, art, and security protections. You don't want to spend it. Everybody wants the last thing they spend on is to be secure, which is fascinating to me in America, because over in Europe and other places, the reason you don't have a lot of violence on the schools is because they actually invest in security. They have measures in place.
You should look at what France do. They don't have weapons on the scale of the United States. But and also, that we don't want to pay for anything hardly with tax dollars anymore. So, I mean, all of the things that you mentioned, they sound great, but once it's time to start figuring out where the money is going to come from, people, even the people that have to vote on these types of things, they all of a sudden forget, right? Because as we've forgotten before, and we will forget again, the way people feel and having all these conversations, because this has happened too many times. It's the norm, right? Nothing's going to change.
I just got through telling you. Go ahead, Finley. Go ahead.
One quick note about the soft targets. So Florida schools, because we've had a couple school shootings down here, there's deputies at every school, including the one in which the deputies failed to respond. Also, Florida State, which is a major university, Go Noles, also they have campus police, and there was a school shooting. I think Virginia Tech is the same. So, but I wanted to make sure again that it's not just security at urban schools, because they have shootings as well. It's the randomness of the school shootings that is happening. And again, I think it's this idea that it ain't gonna happen here out of this group. That's what I think.
So this is such an easy problem to fix. After 9/11, our government crazy. there's about 90 public schools in the United States. There's about over 8 million unemployed veterans. Veterans who are trained weaponry already took an oath to lay their life down for our country. Put 2 fucking guards in every school. 2 unemployed veterans in every school. Have a staff of 5. Let them rotate for lunch, whatever. This ends tomorrow. This is there has to be a political motivation to take care of this problem. The fact that we're still discussing this problem in 2025 actually mind boggles me. I'm done. Thanks.
But I'm just curious though, like
there's officers here in Florida, Andy, and we still have school shootings. We have deputies at almost every school.
So
we still have school.
One of the other things to note is as new school facilities are built, they're built with security measures taken into the architecture. So it's interesting because, Brad, you're right, they're softer targets, but in actuality, a lot of the newer schools probably have, in the physical location, vestibules and areas to deter the entrance or to go through certain security measures that you probably don't have in the urban schools. Yet it's interesting they're penetrating and getting through.
So no security system's ever 100%. Hold on. In my experience, I have witnessed this, that people pay the least amount for security. So I don't know what the guards are making in Florida. I'm assuming 30 to 40K. Maybe they're making
deputies. They're sheriff's deputies.
I don't know what they're making, so that means nothing to me. But my point is that I just watched Texas put in a $150 million high school football stadium. Now they've cut programs. It's a big freaking school, but they've cut programs, and they complained about it. And I sat there and I said, that is a massive target environment. It's a huge school system. And I go, so I'm confused. Like, what upgrades did you do to security? And when I looked, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything proposed except for like one additional guard at $33,000 a year part-time, which I said, that's not going to cut it these days. Like, I'm sorry, we live in a more modern world with all the advancements in technology, not even just thinking guns out of the way, but just like looking at what you have going on. Like we removed the responses to bullying. Like bullying never left. We never changed bullying. We don't need to bring bullying back. It just never left. What we changed was how we were allowing people to respond to bullying. Instead of going knock that guy back on his feet or girl, now all of a sudden it's you have to use your feelings and you have to repress all this rage and anger and humiliation you have, and we'll work it out through drawings and puppy love and Skittles. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. You'd have to ask one of them. I just think that we took a wrong turn somewhere. And if you're really serious about protecting your schools, you need to get rid of hollow core doors. There's already been a study out there. $250,000 would actually increase the odds of you having survive a shooter attack in your school. And it was $250,000 per school across the U.S.
Brad,
did you see surveillance? There's also laws. You have to look at your state, because not all the states allow certain surveillance, license plate readers, facial recognition. Some states have a ban on it, but for the states that allow it, if you've got a car that's like circling a little too many times around your school, AI picks that up, and AI can, just as you were talking about, can see patterns, but they can also see it with the camera systems, and if something seems out of the ordinary, they have plate readers, and they can track it. It goes right into your Metropolitan Police, and they're going to investigate it. So, but not all states.
You there?
You're in the Matrix, Abby.
In the camera?
You were in the Matrix, Abby.
Yeah, we heard not all states, and then you went on silent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not
so
all
can
states.
you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Loud, clear.
yes, ma'am.
Okay. So not all states have it legal to have plate readers and facial recognition. For the states where it's legal, you have surveillance, and you have between AI and regular surveillance. If a car is circling around a school in it too many times, or in in an abnormal way, they're going to pick up on it, and the cameras are going to trigger, a dive into reading the plates. And again, it's not all states allow this. The same thing with facial recognition. You're going to have, if someone is in the perimeter or the curtilage of a property and their face pops up on the camera, that's going to be triggered into facial recognition. If the person is then ID'd as someone either with a record, or they're even going to look at if someone has tats on their neck that are, white supremacist tats, or I don't know, you come up with something. They're going to look at their surveillance videos, but they'll use facial recognition. It's not in all states. Like in Florida, where you're talking about, you can do this, but you can't do it. I think like Illinois, you can't do it. My state, is probably the number one state where you can, because we've had this, because of our industry. But you should look at your state laws and how much they can protect vis-a-vis the plate readers and the facial recognition.
Brad, did you see on the news, I think it was last week or the week before, this happened in Seattle, right on the ocean front, where that guy pulled out a gun and shot the vet that was in the wheelchair because he said that he was doing some type of stolen valor shit. Did you see that?
Yeah, I briefly saw it. It scared across it. That's a whole different scenario.
No. It really isn't, because my point is, if you observed the response of the children, there were several children in the frame, right? If you observe the response of the children knew exactly what to do, right? To get the hell out of the way. And again, I think that we're trying to do all of this brainstorming, and people want to act like they're going to produce any type of problem solving at this point, where we lost the plot years ago. And we've already, produced a generation of children that are already almost war torn in a way. They know what I don't know if you've been listening to these kids describing what they went through yesterday. They're not shocked. They know, because they've heard the story. They're familiar with it. This is the norm. And I feel like we got to stop jerking ourselves off, trying to feel better about it, and accept that that's kind of what we've chosen as a society. And this is just kind of what it's going to be. This is what it's going to be.
So I will say this.
You're not going to protect your children from not only being shot, but I feel like, you're talking about trauma, robbing children of their innocence, exposing children to extreme violence. Like in real life, people talk about the video games, but we're talking about live and in color in real life. And we can't act like this is not the norm, and that we didn't choose this.
So I come from a generation that was doing duck and cover drills for nuclear war with our desk. Apparently the desk from the 80s and the early 90s was sufficient enough to withstand nuclear blast. I think we should bring those back, because if they could handle nuclear bombs, what the hell, man? We just use those. I also had the fear. I was a latchkey kid. I was literally a predator's wet dream. Like, if there was a non-paneled white van with no windows on the back, I was probably the target they were looking for, because I walked around with a house key around my neck on a string. Not even a chain. We were so broke we could only afford string. And God help you if you lost that fucking thing. So yes, I grew up in a generation that was scared, and we had to immediately walk home. We didn't have cell phones. No one gave a shit. The only time your parents knew who they had kids was when the news came on and it said, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? That was their, oh shit, I have kids? Okay, so there's a little tongue-in-cheek in there, but that's literally how I grew up. And I'm going to tell you something, every generation has this fear. We had kids that thought bombs were going to go off. They thought Russia Russia was going to invade. We had movies, we had media, we had news coverage that was inundating us with like, we're all going to be, what was that movie, Red Dawn or something? Patrick Swayze, a whole bunch of kids like fending off the entire Russian army. We were all going to be that. We were like, yep, I'm going to have my ear pierced, a handkerchief on my thing. I'm going to look like the boss with a cap folded in my back pocket, and I'm going to kill a whole lot of Ruskies. That was literally how we grew up. So I get the point. Yes, I don't want kids to be traumatized, but kids are traumatized every generation.
Brad, we train, so I hate to break this to King, but we train our kids what to do with active shooters. We have drills with them. We now had this new initiative with the summer camps because the summer camps were so at risk. So we have to put in, and those are exposed. If you ever went to camp where they're located, they're usually remote. They're on lakes with access, public access, and we have to train the children, and we train them at our community centers, at our schools. We used to just have to train the staff. Now they have to know what to do, how to evacuate if there's a bomb scare. However, what Brad is saying, when I was a kid, we went under our desk for fear that the Soviets were going to bomb us. We had these drills in public school, so it's not.
If you go to old schools, you'll see the radiation signs.
Yeah.
There'll be a door. It'll have radiation, like a fallout cell shelter.
Yes, I remember that.
I was there.
They ushered us down there with some kooky guy in a green uniform. Yeah, hold on. They ushered us down there with some janitor in a green button-down shirt and green pants, and he was like, "Come in here, kids. I'll protect you." And we're all like, "Who gave this guy permission to like collect 40 fucking kids and huddle us in the dark in some fucking room in the basement of a high school?" We were like living Freddy Krueger's nightmare. Like that's how I grew up. So I get the trauma on the kids. I understand it, and I wish I could have said, "Hey, it's going to get better," but there's going to be a new trauma. Like you have an online threat with kids today. That's what's actually plaguing you. It's not the gun violence.
Right.
It's incitement to it online, which apparently is a triggering thing. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's a cultural thing. Like we have to examine why is it overwhelmingly boys? What is it that we're doing wrong with raising men? Because clearly we're doing something fucking wrong. Right? Everybody in agreement with that? We're doing something wrong if we're creating mass shooters who go to school when they graduate saying, life's too hard, I need to shoot up everybody.
People murdered back in the 80s too, like the murder is not new. It's the scale of the impact that a person can make with the type of arms they have available to them now. Like
I was pointing to
we saw presidents be assassinated. We saw that, right, on TV, right?
But it's not the weapons.
How many of us, if we're going to sit in any type of empathy for our children, how many of us, when you went to school and we did not only nuclear drills where we got under the table, but we had to do severe weather drills. I'm not stupid. Like I know that you can't really shield a child from potential catastrophe, and catastrophes happen. But this is not a natural disaster. This is not a natural disaster. It's a norm, and I think that again, like people always take for granted shit that they never had to go through.
But what is the difference between back then?
Our generation was not being mowed down in churches, in shopping malls, and that didn't happen until Columbine.
Wait, stop. Pete, I'm going to let you go, and then Pete's going to go next because he was talking about the video. But I'm going to say this. I'm calling bullshit on that because literally I can go from the country's inception and foundation to say that that's bullshit where kids were not afraid. There's various groups that have came over here, that were imported, that were enslaved here, that had to worry about other groups and be determined. America is not for the King. Stop. Mute up. Thank you. Other people are going to talk, and not just King. But I'm telling you right now that kids, since America's start and inception of a country, have been plagued every fucking generation by some trauma that has existed, whether it be savage Indians, as they quoted back in the day, to fear of black people, to Russians, to Asians. You would be shocked at the number of kids that have to go through every generation there's been trauma. Anti-Semitism, the fucking Germans, Japanese were gonna kill and eat their kids. Like, that shit really went on here, and every kid grew up under the banner of it. So I'm gonna go to Pete, but every kid gets
so fuck it. Yeah, like, all right. Let's
King, I already said Pete's gonna
We
go.
already saw, go ahead.
Can I go after the next guy?
So I was just gonna say, I just find this all ridiculous to listen to. Okay, in the 80s, especially for like 1987, the types of firearms you could get was actually a lot. The availability was a lot easier, and a lot of the guns were a lot easier to alter and turn into machine guns and that kind of stuff. And I would say, yeah, okay, the school shootings seem to be more of a thing now. But it's not because suddenly we have different types of weapons that are more lethal. That's not the case whatsoever. And even then, yeah, there's more school shootings. But if you were to look at when homicides and gun violence reached their peak, it was in the late 80s and early 1990s. The whole meme about meth actors in schools happened mainly in urban high schools, because these kids were shooting each other at school and after school. So I guess you kind of deny that there is a problem with the people, as opposed to everybody wants to look at the guns, I think, but why is it that we have this problem now and didn't before?
So I agree with the idea of there is an issue with how we're raising boys. I've said this a few times. That is an issue, but this specific issue of school shooting is on the rise, and we figured out the 80s violence, right? You deal with gangs, you get these young guys either back on track or you put them in jail, right? We figured that out. We've not had a particular bad actor, right? And that's a problem. But I will say this, and I'll say it 30 times. Like, you cannot underestimate the fact that there is a problem with our boys. There is a major problem with our freaking boys. And we gloss over it, like, yeah, the girls, but we gloss over that major fact, because they're not only shooting up schools and violence, dude, there's a youth crime, uptick in youth crime in a lot of cities, a big uptick. And it's only going to get worse if we don't deal with these young men and get them on some type of path.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Blake.
Well, I have agreed with, some of the points Finley and people make. It's like, look, we actually did not figure out gangs and stuff. We understand them a little more, but we haven't figured out how to deal with gang crime. The same kind of crime that we're dealing with in our cities, our inner cities right now, with young men with nothing to do, running around, stealing and killing. That's the truth. It's our sons. It's y'all people's sons up the streets. It's everybody's fucking sons out here doing this stuff. And the difference between now and then is actually some neighborhoods were actually safe in the early 80s. If it wasn't touched by crack cocaine and gangs, you were able to go on some blocks, and some people understood, especially even the kids knew, like, that's not a block we can play on. Like, we can't hit licks over there. That's but now it's no holds barred. Like, whatever the impulse is at the moment, that's what's going to happen on the streets. And the people who are unarmed and unprotected from them are the same people who are unarmed and unprotected when somebody does a specific type of crime in which we freak out about, called mass shootings. Now, what we fail to understand or we keep ignoring is the statistics that we have for the amount of mass shootings in America are all grouped in a bunch with the ones we deal with more often, and that's, young black male shooting up like 3 or 4 people, pulling up on their ops, as they say,
might hit 3 or 4 people. Half of the targets were innocent, had nothing to do with their squabble. So that's the kind of mass shootings we usually deal with, and those are the numbers that are being clumped in for somebody to be able to make a national statement saying that mass shootings are on the rise in America. It's like, no, the same kind of shootings have been going on, and we've never figured out how to deal with that. But these school shootings and shootings at airports and stuff, it's just the same symptom of, it's not about trying to take the weapons from the people. It's trying to figure out how to get more people to understand that nobody's coming for you. Nobody's going to fucking save you. You are the ultimate beginning and end and responsibility for the protection of you and the people you are responsible for. Yes, we have laws. Yes, we have policemen. Yes, we have authorities. But at the end of the day, they have shown and proven that they show up when the crime is already being committed to solve the crime of your murder, your robbery, your rape. That's what happens when you depend on a system. So it's not to blame victims, but until we get the same attitude we have about protecting money in America as protecting our kids, saying statements like maybe the kids should not be held up in an unarmed fashion, you know, they shouldn't be held in a single place, a single location, unarmed, without any armed to protect them. Because we protect our money. Like a break even. Don't think you're going to just place that has loads of money or anything that's worth anything. Like, the problem is right in front of your face. You're scared to protect kids. You want somebody else to protect them. That's
You're right, and we protect our guns.
Thanks, Blake. Hold on just a second. Excuse me.
Can I get back in the queue, KK?
Yeah, well, not yet. Hold on, excuse me. Okay, not right. Thank you. Just a minute, please. We're going to be closing down the room soon, and I want to just give last call for anyone that's in the goo that wants to come up and speak. Now is your chance, because we're going to turn off hand raising. Also, before we let Mr. Finley and Queen also start have a share, I want to give an opportunity for those who have been on stage that has not spoken yet, like Annie and Jules and perhaps Mike, the opportunity to speak. Flash your mic or come off mic if you want to speak now. Okay, great. So ladies first, let's go Annie, then Jules, please. Go ahead.
Good evening to everybody on stage and in the audience. I live in Arizona. I'm a big fan of the Second Amendment. I was a victim of gun violence, which is why I'm a fan of the Second Amendment. All of my husband and I's children have gone through a school district which was recently, within the last 5 years, implemented armed security. So in addition to having a school resource officer provided by the city, which is grant funded, they work at each school, they work in conjunction with armed security that is taxpayer funded, that was spearheaded by a retiring police officer, and that's what the foundation was built on, with a group of veterans, and it was voted on, passed, and funded. It is possible. Force must be met with equal force, and it has to be done immediately. That's the only way we're going to protect our kids. Love y'all.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you. I have a history in the military community, and even some of my friends that are retired or out, they have done that. They did that a couple of times all across the country, as they kind of just set up just a presence known, just to be like, if it just kind of a force of presence then might deter any future issues. Go ahead, Mr.
Hey, thank you. I agree with everybody what you're saying, and I think the root problem, the FBI said today that the Minnesota school shooter was a person with a hate agenda. You can't say no, of course. Duh, he has a hate agenda. But you have to look at what this country is doing. We're bringing in people that have a American hate agenda. Whether they came in through the borders, they have no respect, they hate America. Whether we're bringing in college students from other countries that hate America and spit on America. College professors are coming in from other countries that can't stand America,
Jules,
hate America.
are you talking about immigration right now? Because we're talking about the school shooting in Minnesota.
Yes, but
Okay.
I'm talking.
Just making
I'm talking
sure.
about this person had a hate agenda. Is what the FBI said. We have a country full of hate agendas. We elect members of Congress with a hate agenda. George Soros wants these things to happen in America. He hates America. So this child or this transsexual, whatever, got the agenda of hate because it's drilled into him. Just like it's drilled into the other haters I mentioned for America. And that's why it's happening. You know, you have to respect America. You can't hate America. If you want to live in America, you can't just hate America. And with guns, everybody's blaming the guns. Of course, a person like that should not have had a gun. And we could sing till tomorrow. It's not going to happen where they're going to be prevented from getting guns. But we got to get the hate that's being taught in all around the world about America. And just look at, I don't want to bring the Middle East into it, but I'm going to. When you have countries that teach their children hate from within their schools, within their whole lives, they're going to have hate in their heart, and they're going to show that hate in their heart one day. And that's why I think it started. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, you're on stage, hasn't spoken yet. Would you like to come off mic and offer a share? Mic 1, mic 2, mic 3, mic 4. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Finley. Mr. Finley's on the phone. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind Blake that being shot and being in an environment where you're going about your business and being shot, like whether you're in a church or whether you're in the Target or whether you're at school or the university, like it doesn't matter whether you're talking about people on the street that